Your heart's running away with your head.
Now what are we gonna do?
Come on. I've thought it all out. It just wouldn't work. Beautiful.
Lovable.
Kiss. Grow fonder.
It just isn't done that well.
The son of the queen of the left hang.
But you are going.
Yes, those poor people.
Well, now what are we gonna do? But you are going.
Yeah, I guess so. That's me too. The left hang.
Is it me? Done it.
The left hang. That's me too. The left hang.
Is it me?
Come on.
Don't overdo it.
That's me. I guess done it. Grow fonder.
That's me. They'll be seen.
That's me. I guess done it. Grow fonder.
That's me. They'll be seen. That's me.
I guess done it. Grow fonder.
That's me. They'll be seen. That's me. That's me.
I guess done it. Grow fonder.
The son of the queen of the left hang.
But you are going.
I'd like to.
Kiss. Now what are we gonna do? But you are going.
Yeah, I guess so. That's me too. The left.
Done it.
That's me too. The left.
Done it.
Love you more than life itself.
That's me.
I guess done it. Grow fonder.
That's me. They'll be seen. That's me.
I guess
I'd like to.
kiss fonder.
That's me. They'll be seen. That's me.
I guess done it. Grow fonder.
That's me. They'll be seen. That's me.
I guess done it. Grow fonder.
Well, hello. Hello. Dang it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Darachat. My name is Daramouthe, or Dara for sure, and I have on the wonderful but very pumpkin like the Gourd King. Hello, Gourd King. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
When you say it like that, you sound very newsy like, and here they come down the way. I'm doing I'm doing pretty well, sir. Thank you for coming on. I know I am an unknown to the land of content creation, but I do this thing where I invite strangers on, basically.
We do the opposite of what the parents taught.
Yeah,
We
they
talk
said
to strangers here.
yeah, they said stranger dater. I said, what?
Not if you're streaming, Mom.
That's how it works, Mom. You gotta go like, hey, you wanna come on? Oh my goodness. But anyway, yes, it's it's been a fun time. I was and I think you were telling me, I think it was through White Bear. I think it was through White Bear that I met you, because I can't remember who exactly it was.
I want to say at least we heard of each other. I want to say around the time I think you spoke to Vex.
Oh, Vex
So,
Electronica. Yeah, she's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
She's a firecracker though. She's
Oh, love Vex.
she's Vex is I hope to have her back on soon. Oh, I couldn't do it because she was in the process of moving.
Mhm.
So the one time I got her was probably before then, and then of course she lives in Canada. So
Mhm. Much to her chagrin.
oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
and speaking of Vex and Whitey, I see cannolis in the chat. So basically, that's all 4 people who now host MMM. So there you
Right?
go.
Well, I mean, technically yes, but I've interviewed VTuber. It's not an interview per se. It's more like I've had on VTubers as well, so it's not like I've talked to a couch before. Look, the couch talks. No, but no, I don't. Darachat for me, and I know people call it interview, and I have used like interview as a tag on the thing, but it's mostly just a free flowing conversational thing, right? You know, I know people like I know you talk about movies and came in to get my no,
Wow. Wow.
no, Vex, no, I'm sorry, no, but you know what? I still love you anyway, so there you go. But yeah, oh, where was I? Darachat is for me. It's not an interview show. It's just a free flowing conversational show because, as Vex can attest, you can go pretty much anywhere. And I know you do entertainment stuff. Like I looked at your channel, you're doing movie stuff and all this other thing in the entertainment field. It's like, oh, okay, so
I mean, I'm pretty. I mean, I've got 3 channels on 3 very different kind of
yeah.
things. So I'm pretty free flowing too, I guess.
Well, yeah, there was so you had gaming. I don't have gaming. This is pretty much it. I did do gaming in the beginning just to try to find like what would work sort of thing. But the issue is that it didn't hit right. You know, you do something and it yeah, there she is laughing her face off as usual. She's got a big mouth, but it's mostly the chew off heads. Anyway. She knows I'm joking. Anyway. You're wonderful, Vex. Please don't hurt me.
By the way, Vex, hope you're feeling better. Hope you're starting to feel better. She's been sick.
She's been sick. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like the many other channels she goes on to. It's not like I'm following her everywhere. Goodness,
she's had time to like she's been telling us about some pretty interesting movies she's been watching here lately.
Yes,
one of them I watched also, thought it was actually pretty cool, that Lisa Frankenstein that just came out. But then she watched Poultrygeist, which like I looked up what that movie was. I kind of had a vague understanding of it, and I was like, wow, this sounds pretty messed up.
Hey, you know what? We had Sharknado, okay? So anything after
No,
that's
child's play compared to Poultrygeist, I assure you.
You mean you didn't see Sharknado 5? You didn't see how messed up?
I mean, at a certain point, you know, the Fujita scale of shark-based tornadoes. I mean, you kind of feel like you've seen one Sharknado, you've probably seen all the Sharknados.
I don't know. There was that black one. There was that red one.
Be about which one's black. I see how.
I've never seen a black shark before, but that one looks pretty mighty dark there, right there, just flying.
You can't just have great whites spinning around. You got to diversify.
You got to diversify. Oh, look, there's a midget shark right there.
Now, if they do that for the next Sharknado, I am there day one. If it's just a tornado full of midget sharks, I am so in. I am absolutely in.
It would be Sharknado midget style this summer, coming to theater near you. Midget Sharknado. Man, that's a small Sharknado. I didn't think it'd get that small.
It's an F half.
It's half and half. Yeah. I could see them trying to do this. Like, wow, you guys really couldn't come up with anything, huh? I see how that works.
I mean, in this climate, they wouldn't want to call them. Excuse me. They wouldn't want to call them midget sharks.
Midget sharks, yeah, because that's heightism.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage would not be happy with this conversation right now.
He likes
unless he's the only one getting to play the sharks.
Yeah. Or getting to ride them, whichever, but you know, that's a different story altogether. But the thing of it is that it seems like he's in charge of all the dwarves and stuff because you know he got a bunch of dwarves fired from the Snow White.
Yeah, he's a midget dictator. It seems he's beyond being in charge. I mean, he's making all the career decisions for them right now.
Oh,
it's pretty rough, I assume.
It's just funny when you say that. It's sort of like. It's like, you know, hearing that voice, I think I swear. Oh, wow. That's a little angry small guy. Hey there, small guy. I swear. We're going away. But it does remind me of that South Park scene where I think it was during the Passion of the Christ thing where Eric Cartman tries to dress up as tries to dress up as Hitlerish, and he's leading
Wow.
people. Yeah, he's leading people through town just saying these nonsensical German stuff, and I'm just like, wow, woo! South Park pushed the envelope there. Goodness.
I mean, that's
Oh
what
my.
they're known for. That's what
Mm,
they do. I've not seen a whole lot of South Park myself, but I've
right.
seen enough to know what they do. But I obviously hear about any time they do something that really
Yep.
hits
Yep. That's
anymore these days.
Cannoli has it right. Yep. Midget dictator. Yep. Yep.
Oh
He's the
no.
one. He gives dictation in small words. I can go all day with this. I think people are like, no, I'm done with this guy. I'm out. But yeah, I've seen a lot of. Well, I didn't see a lot of movies. So I did go see the Deadpool Wolverine one twice.
I've seen that once. I won't be going back. um,
Your money, your choice.
I'm amongst that, I guess, small group of people who thinks the movie's trash. I think it's horrible.
Right. Then there
I
was.
get why people like it. Don't get me wrong. I understand what people like about it, but I think I'm pretty tough on movies when it comes to writing and things
Right.
like that. I mean, granted, I can enjoy a movie that has bad writing, but
Mm,
this movie I didn't even enjoy. Like superficially, I was like, I don't care for that. I like got a couple of chuckles out of it. Thought there was one fight scene that I thought was pretty cool, the one in the van. Other
yeah.
than
Oh
that,
yeah.
I really didn't like it. So I was like, oh,
Un-
it felt like more of the same Marvel sludge that we've been getting since I don't know Endgame.
they were as the kids would say, they were slutting out the marble. That's for sure. Or something like that. I don't know. Um, but then there was. I did go see. What was the one movie? I saw the. Now I only read like the book, maybe once or twice when I was young. But I went to go see the Harold and the Purple Crayon movie with Zachary Levi.
I Yeah, Vex was telling us a little about that. I know next to nothing about that movie. I like when it got brought up. I was like, "What the heck is Harold and the Purple Crown?" I had no idea what that was.
It's a
Uh,
it's a book. It's a
okay.
children's book. It's about a child who is given a basically a purple crayon, and he draws to his imagination. And I think this I didn't get to see the exact beginning because I was 10 minutes late, and so I kind of missed some of the beginning of the movie.
Uh
Um,
oh.
but essentially it's just Harold coming to the real world. He's grown up. He's coming to the real world, and he's trying to find the old man, which is the creator of the book. Um, but again, I only read the book when I was a kid, and that was a long, long time ago. Uh, but yeah. So, but I mean, I have an issue where some content creators come out and they enjoy a movie, or some content creators come out and they hate a movie. And
Mhm.
the thing of it is if you want to go see a movie, it's best to just go see it. Now I know people say, "Well, I don't want to give it money this or that or whatever," and that's fine, right? You give. It's like presenting your case in court, right? Like you're presenting yourself in court, saying, "This place doesn't blah 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 because so and so," and this is a whole Marvel ordeal, right? Or Disney or whatever. But my thing is like there were a lot of the. There was one movie I watched a while ago that a lot of people complained about. It wasn't the greatest, because I've seen like I follow like Film Threat and other people as well. But it was the movie called If, right?
Okay. Yeah.
One with
John
uh,
Krasinski.
John Krasinski, Ryan Gosling, another movie he was in previously, and so many other.
I
Funny
think if
enough,
was that Ryan Gosling or Reynolds?
Reynolds. Sorry,
Okay.
Reynolds.
Okay. Yeah.
I probably get that one because it had Steve Carell. It had so many different celeb voices in it. Like I think I know John's wife Emily voiced the unicorn, Emily Blunt, and then
Yeah, there's I mean, like you said, Steve Carell, Phoebe Waller-Bridge does a voice,
she does.
Louis Gossett Jr., Fiona Shaw, like there's
Yep,
tons of people.
Oh yeah.
doing voices in that. Yeah, it's got a
But
pretty robust cast.
yeah, it is. And I was trying to find out who she voiced from the get-go, but I didn't see the first time. So the second time I went back, I noticed she was voicing the unicorn, which was, she's English, so that can trip you up sometimes. And then and of course, Louis Gossett, I think that was his last movie. I think If was his last movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it might be the last. Yeah, I think on his credits that. Well, okay, I take that back. There actually are some other movies that are still in production that he has a credit on, which
Oh,
means
wow.
they're just. But I don't know the extent of his role in them. He's not like a big actor anymore, so he might have just played like little small bit parts for them here and there. But he's got a huge filmography, so he's
Mm.
he probably just got in the swing of doing a lot of stuff at once. But he actually still has 10 upcoming actor credits. So yeah,
That's insane.
that's crazy. But If is the last one that is finished at the moment.
Right. But for me, it's like there are a lot of people that spoke against the movie If, and I went and I saw it and I enjoyed it because it's a movie. Of course, it's a movie about the imagination of a child, right? Child dealings, whatever. I don't know if you went to see the movie,
I haven't seen it, no.
but
It's one I would be willing to check it out. It's one that I haven't gotten around to.
yeah, I from my perspective, it was worth a try. You may end up not liking it, but for me, it was a story about. There are some things that are kind of off. I will grant it that. There are some things that are not explained very well. But for me, it was a story about the imagination of when you're a kid. Bless you. Hey, White Bear, how are you, sir?
It's up,
Hope you're doing
Whitey.
well. Yeah, he comes growling in once in a while.
Mhm.
But it starts out with there's a daughter. John Krasinski plays the dad, and something's wrong with him. That's not clearly explained. It's hinted at, but it's not clearly explained. And it kind of deals with her mindset throughout this point in time, and just imagination as a kid. But there's also a secondary factor to it. So there's the imagination of a child, right? Imaginary friends and all this stuff, and then you have the adult factor, right? So you have this secondary part to the movie where it's now about the adults who forgot about their. I'm probably spoiling something for you, so I apologize. But the secondary part is about the adults forgetting their imaginary friends and having a reconnection in a way. I won't tell you how, but there's that part, and a lot of people. There were a few things I agree on. Like again, there was some stuff that wasn't clearly said. You kind of get hints of what happened to the mom, but it's not clearly stated what happened to her.
Okay.
And all stuff. For me, it was worth it. For me, it was worth watching it. I enjoyed the Deadpool Wolverine one as well. Too much to the chagrin of other people who didn't like it. But again, I'm not. I'm as an adult, I'm learning as I go that you shouldn't fully rely on someone's opinionated telling of a movie to you. Now, what we talking about? Drop Dead Fred? What? I don't even know that.
I think it's Drop Dead Fred is a movie from the 90s about a girl who has an imaginary friend, so you could relate that to If. Drop Dead Fred's pretty dang funny. I like that. I mean, that movie was lambasted by critics, but I actually rewatched that fairly recently. I still think it's pretty dang funny. I think it's a solid movie personally. I think it beats the crap out of a lot of the lame brain comedies we get anymore.
Right.
But as far as it's gotten to the point anymore where I mean, because a lot of people when I put like what I think of a movie out there, generally speaking, I don't put much thought into telling an audience, a potential audience member, what they're supposed to think. I'm telling people what I observed.
Right.
Sometimes in long form, like a video. Sometimes I'm just tweeting it out because I generally speaking don't make videos about newer stuff. I don't really have the time to, and it takes me a little while to like organize my thoughts. I generally can't do a video after just seeing a movie once, so I might just tweet about it.
Right.
But I rarely tell people what they're supposed to, whether they're supposed to go see it. I generally think I don't have that much power anyway.
Yeah.
If you're wanting to see something, you're going to see it. If you don't, you're not going to. I might be able to encourage you the other way on that one, but
Yeah.
you would really have to value, I guess, what I think. But I don't really worry too much about what people enjoy, because I know that, I mean, what you enjoy, it's kind of hard to control that.
Yeah.
I know there are movies that I would objectively say are not good movies that I still enjoy. So I rarely hold it against somebody if they like something, if they had a good time with something, because you're not fully in control of that.
Yeah.
It's more, I tend to try to comment on whether, if you take your feelings out of the equation, is what you're watching actually good? Now, sometimes I might put a little more passion behind what I'm saying in regard to a movie that I not only observe as bad, but also felt was bad. Like Deadpool
Right.
Wolverine, I put out a tweet about that. I was pretty harsh with it, and I was pretty harsh with the people calling it good. I was trying to be
Yeah.
very specific. I was a little annoyed with people who were saying that this was a movie of high quality. So I was trying to differentiate them from the
Yeah.
people who liked it. And some people they'll conflate those two ideas. A lot of people think that, well, you can't judge art objectively, and I think that's ridiculous. Of course you can. Not to every single extent.
Right.
But if writing is or isn't consistent, you can judge things like that objectively. There's other aspects to film you can. But mostly I'm just commenting on what I observed.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point, like, my personal annoyance is that I have to sometimes specify to people that I'm not talking about you if you enjoyed it. It's like it's as useless a statement to me as the people who always preface their videos with, "This is just my opinion." I'm like, of course it is. Stop saying that. I know it's your opinion. That's fine.
Yeah.
I don't really worry too much about telling people anymore that I'm not talking about them if they're simply somebody who enjoyed it. It's like, no, I'm just telling people what I observed in the film. With something like Deadpool Wolverine, I understand completely what people like about the movie. It's a comedy with action, and if the action and the comedy entertains you, then of course you're gonna like the movie. I mean, of course you will. For me, it was about, okay, so is it written well? Because I mean, the superficial stuff like the fighting and the comedy, I wasn't enjoying all of that. I was enjoying very little of it.
Right.
But if the writing had been consistent and whatnot, and I actually observed few flaws, I'd be like, I'll probably give this another chance and see if maybe I like it more the second time. Because I do think there are some movies that you don't always enjoy the first time, but when you kind of take a step out, you get a little bit of familiarity with it, then you go back to it again, it's actually a little bit better. I've had that happen to me many, many times. I didn't like
Right.
The Mummy when I first saw it.
Right.
1999, The Mummy. Most people love that movie. I was kind of like, first time I watched it again, I was like, oh, this is actually kind of amazing. I love this. This is so entertaining. It's very self-aware. It's fun. It's one of my favorite popcorn flicks. Deadpool Wolverine, I kind of took a step back for a second. I was like, okay, is this as off as I think it is? And I asked some questions about it and kind of was like, yeah, this isn't really holding up. So yeah, I objectively think this is a bad movie that I also happen not to enjoy. But
Right.
if you enjoyed it, cool. Glad you had a good time. If you want to see that in theater over and over, that is your prerogative. Go for it. Lord knows the box office needs theaters need your money badly. So
When you say it like that though, Gord, it sounds like it's filled with such disdain. It's like, if you enjoy it, okay, I get it. It's filled with
no,
such
it's my disdain is only for people who actually need me to specify that, because I'm like, of course
Yeah.
you don't. It's like, do you really need me to tell you that that's okay?
No.
I don't think you would, but there's
No.
some people out there that get really irritated when you share an opposing viewpoint. It's like, what are you telling me I'm wrong to enjoy it? I'm like, do you actually need me to tell you that it's fine, that your brain chemistry reacted in a positive way to this way? Do you actually need me to tell you that? Because I find that kind of strange. Okay.
So
But,
over here we have an adult male over here. He is complaining real hard about the movie, yeah? And then he is going real hard at this person as if his life is death. Now, as we try to draw back from that, it's not really life or death, but this person here, he is really crazy. But yeah, no, I get that, because I think when you're a content creator, when you build enough of an audience, they are going to there is some portion that's going to want you to see something, right? They're going to want your take on something, whether it be a movie, a book, TV show, whatever. And to be honest with you, there's those you are fake news. Hey, whoa, hey now. Hey.
Oh, they're referencing a MMM we did some weeks back about Lethal Weapon 2. We can get into that story in a little bit because it is pretty funny if you haven't seen that stream.
No, when so thing here is when you're creating your own content, it's hard to investigate on others because you're I'm so I don't do the what is it, the pre-recorded video stuff. I don't make the 10-minute 30-minute video. I just hey Jack Tarlan, well look who it is, finally shows
What's
up again.
Jack?
Yeah, Jack's a cool dude. And I had him on yesterday as well. So but yes, where was I at? Gosh dang it, Jack. No.
But you're saying you're not you don't do the pre-recorded videos.
No, yes. I just do the live streams and the shorts from the live streams because I use a program called Opus.pro, and I kind of use that to help make the shorts. So I do use a bit of technology to do what I do, but as a content creator, there's only so much you can do. And you see these content creators, they do multiple places of social media and all stuff. I get it. That's fine. But for me, it's like, where is the line? And this we'll get on to what I was originally on, but where's the line where you keep pushing all that stuff, but you stop enjoying making content, right? Like you hear about all the content creators that go on burnout, they're retiring, they're leaving, but where's the joy in making something? Where's the joy in creation? Not taking that line. That's a fan creation of Five Nights at Freddy's, but but where does that line stop? Because it feels like a lot of content creators burn themselves out on making.
Sure.
I think part of it's the money part. Always, to some degree, the money part is part of it. But if you end up not enjoying creating content in whatever form you're doing, then why'd you even start doing this in the first place?
I think I definitely agree with you. I think money becomes, because once money becomes your driving factor, the chances of you burning yourself out probably go up quite a bit, because you likely are forgetting the reason you started in the first place. I mean, granted, this is going to be, person to person. It's the line is going to be very different because it obviously depends on what you're doing. Like when I first started getting to like YouTube and wanting to talk movies and whatnot, I was seeing other people like, your Chris Stuckmans and your Jeremy Johns and the way they did it. And then, I found other people like, Mahler and Little Platoon and Critical Drinker who did it very differently. Really liked their style a lot more. But I guess one thing I figured out very quickly is that for me, I didn't want to talk every single movie. I didn't want to have to do a video for every single thing that came out. I think, it's fine if you're just out there giving your opinions, you're making videos. That's all. I mean, if that's what you love doing, that's awesome. Good for you. I think that's great. But more and more what I've been gravitating towards is I like the idea of making content that people aren't coming I don't want people necessarily to come just to hear what I think of a show or think of a movie. Like my last video was kind of experimental, but I had so much fun making it. And I'm like, I did a video for the movie In a Violent Nature. Ooh. And at first I was just going to do kind of a breakdown of the whole movie, do this, essay about everything that was wrong with it, because it was a movie that disappointed me a great deal. I really wanted to enjoy this movie and I didn't like it. But as I started to get going on the essay and whatnot, I was just kind of getting bored with it. Because as much as I like doing essays and stuff, and while I'm not abandoning that, I was like, as much as I want to talk about this movie and as much as I like essays, something's not meshing here with this format. So why am I doing it? And I kind of put it on the back burner and decided I wasn't going to do anything for a little while until I knew. And then, and I'm kind of glad Whitebear's here because he knows, and I've given him, I like giving him credit at least to an extent for this, is I showed him this content, a video from this content creator that I'm a huge fan of, Modest Pelican. And he does these very dry these dry humor videos where he's just playing a game and kind of poorly explaining what's happening, what he's doing. You know,
Right.
some of it's true, some of it's wrong. He's adding jokes and context that's really goofy. And I said I would love to do, you know, a video or a video series like this because it's really fun and it's really funny. And I think this would be kind of cool. And I showed Whitey that. He goes, dude, you have to do that. That'd be great. I think that would fit you awesome. And it was like, well, maybe that's the approach I should take for In a Violent Nature. Let's start a script and see if that works out. And I wrote it in no time. It was relatively short, at least for me. It was about 17 minutes, which for me, that's short. And as I was putting it together, I was like, this is the kind of content I think I like making the most, because it's not just about the movie you're talking about. Because I do a little brief spot at the very end and tell people that what I actually think of the movie. But the first like 15 minutes are just me poorly explaining the film and just making jokes and just having a good time with it. And I'm like, this is what I want people to see in my channel. I want them to want to come back to the video, not because of what I think of the movie, but because my content is entertaining.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're just giving grades to movies, how many of those are fans going to want to go back and rewatch? Because all you're doing is saying this film is good or this film is bad. I give it this grade. And then once you've seen that once, you're like, okay, there you go. I'm glad I know what you think. I'm glad you like it, or I'm sad you don't, or vice versa. Where's the rewatch value in that? You know, I like the idea of creating videos that people want to go back and watch, that are interesting. And that, I mean, and granted, there are some content creators out there who are telling you what they think of a film in a way that is really interesting, that you do want to rewatch. You know, Little Platoon, Mahler, I think they have very long videos that I find extremely entertaining. And it becomes more about watching the method by which they talk about it. That gives those rewatch value. But most standard, like 6, 7, 8 minute reviews, I feel like they have no rewatch value. And I kind of know already, it's like, I have no interest in doing stuff like that. I want to make videos that are entertaining, that are funny, that people want to go back and watch, maybe more than once.
Yeah.
You know, so I find if I keep at that, I don't think it'll be a long time before I get burnt out, if ever, because I like joking around and I like when people have a good time with my stuff.
Yeah, that's when your enjoyment of what you create shines through your creation, as it were, then that becomes more of a shining light on what you're making, rather than, oh, I've got to play to the algorithm. Oh, I've got to play so I can get the payment. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. Because my thing is like, I'm doing this. The only thing I play to the algorithm for are the tags for my shorts, you know, just to try to at least to get it seen so that other people can see these people, right? Like you, like Jack Tarlad, like so many others, so that they can see these people, that these are human beings with different perspectives from them or similar perspectives. And they can sit and have a conversation about whatever, because you look at the news, you look at the world, you look at all this stuff, and all you see are people just beating each other up because they have a difference of opinion, whether it be political, whatever, or movies, as you clearly stated earlier. But the issue of it is doing this for me means I'm a little over 90 people so far, 90 different people having on here. Which for me is an amazement in itself, because they didn't think it'd be possible. And most times, content creator takes almost a year or half a year to even get to that point, and I did it in less. So it's a crazy thing. But the point of the matter is trying to reach across to have a conversation about whatever, because it needs to happen, right? I'm tired of seeing all the backstabbing and all this other, stupid arguing about whatever. Look, at the end of the day, you are not going to be here forever, and your stuff, whether you like it or not, is not going to be yours forever. So what are you going to do in the meantime, other than bicker, fight, and play to the tribalistic factions of the world? Because that's basically what it is. It's all whatever it is. Football teams, sport teams, political teams, union teams. It doesn't matter. They're all just tribals to the rest of the world, and it just doesn't make sense to me. So that's why I do this, because the fact I get to talk to you, Jack Tarlett, and so many others makes up this underlying feature that, yes, we have difference of opinion, but we can still come to the table and have a conversation. And I think that's more important than the stupidity of arguing over the belittleness of small niche details, like slapping each other with tuna, and just saying, "Oh, that's supposed to hurt."
Well, it's funny because we could. I'm kind of in my mind. I'm like, okay, these two ideas are merging into at least another subject. Is MMM. So okay, so recently, if you don't know, I Cannoli, who runs MMM every Monday, he asked me if I wanted to become a permanent host down there, and it was at the end of June. I mean, from the beginning of January till the end of June, I had started my own live show where I was hosting. We were talking movies and whatnot, and as much as I love being a guest on other people's shows, I was not enjoying hosting it as much, and I think part of the issue for me was kind of what I was describing earlier. Was I was like, I don't feel like these are all that entertaining to me. It's like I didn't find there to be all that many good reasons to go back and rewatch the streams. I mean, I had a good time doing them, but once we were done, I was like, okay, that was the experience. It was a fun discussion, but there wasn't a whole lot to revisit, maybe save for a few of them.
Right.
So I was like, okay, well, I decided to end that show because for that reason, and because my meme channel had kind of taken off, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to put some more work into that, make sure I set aside time for it. But in my mind, I thought the only show, because I was kind of asking myself, would there be anything that would make you do week-to-week streaming permanently again? Would there be anything that would make you want to do that? Would it be an idea of yours or something else? And I was like, at this time, the only thing I could think of, and I was saying this to myself, I was like, if MMM wanted me to be a co-host there, because I'm good friends with Whitey, Cannoli, and Vex, who they're the hosts on that. I was like, if they asked me to be their co-host, I'd probably do it then.
Nice.
Because I actually like going back and rewatching those shows because they're really fun. They're really funny. They're very entertaining. So I often will go back and rewatch those streams. And sure enough, I ended up getting booked for like every show in July.
Nice.
Sometimes it was planned. Sometimes it was me filling in for somebody else, because Cannoli knows that because I don't work on Mondays, that I'm always pretty much available, and generally speaking, I don't think I've ever turned him down. So I really like being on that show, and I usually I'm able to do it. And he came to me and he was like, do you want to be a permanent co-host on here? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I actually think that'd be kind of awesome because I like hanging out with them, and like I said, I like going back and rewatching those shows. And going into your point about the disagreement thing, part of what made me think that way about that particular show was I want to say I think it was in June. I'd been invited on to talk Lethal Weapon 2, which up to that point I had never seen it. Now, I was a huge fan of the first one. I had seen the third one, but for some reason I had never seen the second one. And there's a lot of people who consider the second one to be better. And and if not better, most people are like, yeah, but it's good even if it's the first one's better.
Right.
So the general perception of that film is very positive. So I was excited to watch it. I was pretty hyped. I was like, oh, cool. Finally got a reason to watch this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to talking about it because I was like, he's got a big panel. It's going to be like 6 of us. It would be be a pretty standard stream where we're all kind of glowing over the movie. Maybe some of us have a little bit difference of opinion, but for the most part, everyone probably likes it. I sat down and watched it, and I watched it the day before the stream, and I was like, I don't know if this is actually a good movie. Like, I was sitting there, like, really from the opening scene, I was like, I don't know if I think this is any good. And just progressively, I was like, I might end up coming in with a hot take, but I wanted to be sure. I was like, I'm going to rewatch this movie again tomorrow, and I'm going to take notes, because if I'm right, and this is a bad movie, this is going to be a really fun show, because I'm probably going to be up against everybody, because I'm almost positive no one's going to agree with me on this.
Right.
And I rewatched it, ended up with about 3 or 4 pages of notes. I came away with it. I was like, yeah, this is a bad movie, but I know everyone likes it. So here we go. And when Cannoli was tweeting out, hey, we're doing MMM tonight. We're going to be talking Lethal Weapon 2. Usually panelists will always retweet it out and say, hey, you can catch me here, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So I tweeted out, hey, come see if I'm ever welcome back on MMM again after tonight. And so Cannoli saw that and he was like, oh, here we go. I was like, yeah, I got a lot of notes on this. He's like, oh, they better all be positive. I was like, well, but yeah, we ended up. It's one of the funnest streams I've ever been a part of, because even though it was five people who loved the movie. It was me who had a lot of notes on why it's actually was. I thought the movie was terrible, even though I didn't hate watching it. That was the weird thing. I didn't hate watching the movie. I just came away from it like, this is a bad movie, guys. This is not good. And I have a lot of points as to why it's bad, but I get why you all like it. But it ended up being this 2.5 hour stream where it was a very friendly disagreement, because I was like, I kind of knew going in, I was like, okay, I feel like it's going to be half me, half of them, but my opinion is going to be the one everybody is talking about, because I know everybody loves this movie just about.
Right.
So I've got to be ready for that. And I've never quite lived it down, but I'm fine with it, because I was like, yeah, I stand by everything I said. But I knew after that stream, that's when I started telling myself, if in fact they ever asked me to be a permanent host on there, I'd be more than willing to do it, because I was like, I know we can disagree and be fine. We, and have a really good time with that. I almost sometimes hope that we're going to disagree, just because I know those streams can be so much fun. But I think just there's such good chemistry on that show that it makes them rewatchable, whether we agree or not. It's awesome. I love those guys.
Yeah, that's a great part of if it's well enough that you can come back, because a lot of these shows, I can't tell you how many times I've seen these drama streamers or whatever, and it's just like, come on guys, you're all adults here, can you just get over this bump or whatever? But it never ceased to fail that some content creators just become about the drama.
And or like farm content off of their rivals and stuff, or make their whole channel about we're anti this person, and I'm like, why? What that's your whole channel is built around we don't like this guy, and I'm like, congrats. Is that really gonna? It's like, what happens if that person? I mean, I don't want to be too dark, but what happens if that person dies? Does your channel just go away, or do you have to find somebody else? How does that work? Because
that's a funny thing too, because it's like you're not creating new content anymore. You're just reactionary. That's all this other content is reactionary. You have channels out there that do nothing but react to other people's content, and sure, yes, it's a great way of getting someone else's perspective, but it's nothing new, right? Like yeah, you could say I'm not doing anything new. There are so many other podcasts out there. It's hilarious, but I'm not sitting here, I'm trying to bring all sorts of people, because the many time I've seen content creators bring people on, they're always someone within their field or someone on a higher level, right? Like a higher level status. And for me, I've had people on that aren't content creators, that are considered themselves VTubers or big or small content creators. It doesn't matter. I didn't see that from other content creators, but it does become this weird sort of mesh of stuff where you look at these content creators, say, is this all it's going to be? You're going to just be like, follow this person, whatever. And just, I get it to some degree.
Yeah, what happens if they do something you agree with? Are you going to just disagree on the basis that it's that person? Like, it's one thing to talk about other creators as like a news subject. That happens. Like, obviously, Mr. Beast is a big news subject right now. I have no issue with people covering all that drama. It is a legit story. I get it. It's not something I'm particularly interested in covering, and I don't know a ton about it personally. Yeah. But that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, that makes sense. If you're just covering, you're trying to be objective, cover it as news, whatever. That's fine. But there are channels out there that are like devoted to hating a person or a specific small sect of other YouTubers, and I'm like, that is so weird to me. It's like, look, there are content creators out there that I'm not a fan of theirs, and probably if I wanted to could do a video or two on. I don't think I could go beyond that though. I don't think I could gather every week with my friends and go live on YouTube and say, why do we hate this person this week? It's like, okay. What if they're on vacation? I can't stand that destination they went to. It's like, what is this? This is just bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
It's time to die for a new video.
Like if they pass away, do you have to come in the next week? It's like, okay, our channel series finale because they're gone now. Like, oh,
they've gone to a better place. Those mother truckers, yeah, it's a waste of energy. All it is a waste of energy. I get, you're trying to uphold what someone's like. A lot of the time, a majority of the time, it's just pointing out a person's hypocrisy. They set a standard by their words of what they live by, and then their actions show something completely different. And I'm like, everyone does that.
Yeah.
Pointing out someone's hypocrisy does nothing for you because you have to point out your own hypocrisy. And then you have this sort of weird channel thing where they dig into your past and they start pulling stuff out and you keep digging in theirs. And just like, it's a never ending, it's an Ouroboros. If you know what that is.
Basically if it's one thing if you're, like I said, if you're covering it as news, you're in kind of a safe area there. If you're covering it from a so-called moral high ground, good luck staying perched on that for very long, because like you said, I mean, everybody to some extent is a hypocrite. Every person on earth, because we all have moral standards, whether you're like me and you're a Christian or you have your own set of morals. You're going to betray those morals at some point. Every person on planet Earth does it. So you're not going to be able to stay on that moral high ground for very long. So be careful about that, taking that moral high ground too much, because that is not stable footing for any individual.
It's it's what building the house on sand sort of thing, right? And but yeah, it's something I try to. I mean, I wouldn't. Or wouldn't try to get in those things. But for me, it's something to try to get out of the way of, because if my thing is, if you are called to a space where drama is starting and of course your name is being brought up, your best bet is just to clarify what information or think whatever's going on, and then you walk out of it. Because as soon as your name gets involved, you either you don't say a word and you go about your day, or you go in, you clarify from your perspective and all that stuff. And of course, you wouldn't show the DMs, whatever. That's just dumb, unless the other party agrees. And then you just walk out and don't come back, because it's like that scene from Back to the Future, right? Where Marty McFly gets keep called the chicken, and when he gets called the chicken, he goes on this like challenge thing, and it's like, no, Marty, you're going to hurt yourself if you do that. And a lot of people end up doing that, and that just activates a defense thing inside the brain. And I get it. It's an ego thing. Sure. Great. Fine. I understand. But let me paint a picture for you. Say someone says something to you that's awful, disgusting, whatever. Okay. All right. Well, you clarify the situation, whatever. You try to clear things up, at least to the point that's, personal responsibility sort of stage. And then once that's done, you walk away and you don't look back. But then all of a sudden you get called chicken, and then you're right back in there. You're right back feeding that thing in energy, and you just keep going at it. You don't really help yourself at all. And I think a lot of creators, not naming any, but I think a lot of creators, content creators, they get wrapped up in their own that ego of themselves, and they tend to forget, look, you're gonna be dead one day. This fighting is meaningless. It's a pointless endeavor.
It's like if you're really devoting your whole because it kind of comes off as like you're devoting your whole channel to, I'm better than this person. And I'm gonna do video after video explaining why. And if you're one of my followers and you support this channel, guess what? You get to be better than them too. Member perks. it's I'm like, okay, that's great, but one of you's gonna die eventually, so then what? Because that's a forgotten legacy real quick.
Yeah, hey, cool frog. Yeah, and the thing of it is, right, it's sort of like the saying of holding a grudge is like drinking poison. And I was showing a short I did with the previous guest I had on Silver Fox, and we were talking about that sort of thing. And I said, and it was funny. I came up with this line. It's like the whole thing with hold on, I have to bring it up because I'm gonna probably bust it up. Where was it at? Not that one. No, it was. Let's see. I know you can't see it. From pilot to cultivate your passion. Weird fusion of integrity. I don't think it's that one. Is it? Yeah, it is. Yep. Yeah. So I gotta share a screen for this one. Okay. Entire screen. Okay, so this is gonna be weird, guys. So hold on. But this is the short I'm talking about. So you can see that, right? You can see this? Oh, sorry. Nope. Sorry, you can't. I have a presentation. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
You can see this now, right? You can see this? Okay. All right, I'm going to play. This is what I'm talking about. So this is with Silver Fox, and we sort of go through that, and it's less than a minute, so just we can say one thing and do another. And so you have this combination of like, oh, I'm not that kind of person at all. And then all of a sudden you see sometime later that they are that kind of person because their actions prove their words. Yeah. And it's an oxymoron within someone else. Like, I am not that person, but my actions prove that I am that person. And you're sort of just like, what? And of course, from my perspective, and I've seen this multiple times before, pointing out a hypocrisy in somebody is like pointing out your own hypocrisy in yourself because it doesn't really do much. You're not like, oh, whatever, I don't believe it. It's that sort of mentality where you're just like, yeah, whatever. So, but yeah, it's a poison that either you can drink or they can drink.
Yeah.
Pick who's going to drink it.
and it's your choice. I mean,
I can't believe I came up with that line. That's but yeah, it's not wrong. I mean, it's like at that point you're playing hot potato with the poison, and one of you's gonna have to drink it sooner or later. And it's just like just drop it and walk away.
Are they gonna drink it or are they gonna eat it like after they mash it? I mean, is it a poison drink or is it a poison potato? I mean,
it's something, but it's that game people play, and like I was saying,
the point is you shouldn't eat it.
Yes, at all. Like those small little snail things that the French make. Don't eat them. Don't touch them.
Like the escargot.
The escargot, unless you can handle it, don't touch it.
I would try an escargot. I would try it. I've heard it's actually pretty good. I've never tried it, but
did they say it tastes like chicken?
No. I want to say one of my sisters has probably tried it, and she thought it was pretty good, but I don't remember what she said it tasted like. I have a French YouTube friend. I'll have to ask him, hey, our escargot, yay or nay? Good thing or bad?
Listen, if you must ask, no.
No.
Thanks, French. I appreciate that.
But yeah, but I mean, look, again, like I said, I don't mind covering the idea of covering other content creators. Heck, I think EFAP is one of the most entertaining podcasts on YouTube, and often they will cover videos, and they're usually covering videos by other YouTubers and kind of breaking down their arguments and their points. They do occasionally cover the actual person. Like I know they've been covering that Boogie guy, which I'll be honest, I know nothing about him other than the recent drama, which is weird. But like that's one thing. But yeah, the people who devote their whole channel to like larger creators, I'm like, that's weird. That's a strange thing to me. I like the more, the subjects that you can joke about or have good conversations about. I mean, granted, my meme channel is mostly politically based, I guess, but even that, the primary intention behind that is just, look, politics are kind of a crap show. Let's try to have some laughs with it. So, I mean, my viewpoint, I guess my political side of the aisle isn't exactly hidden, but like even the people who follow my meme channel, unless you're a friend with me and we've talked about issues, those people don't necessarily know every stance I have on every single thing,
Right.
So
and
I'm
for
mostly
me,
just trying to give something give someone something to laugh about.
Yeah, and that's great because this world is already filled with enough of just enough downing and all the things you see on the news. The news is pretty mostly negative anyway. But for me, on a negative, I mean not a negative, sorry, a political aspect, I just don't care anymore because it doesn't. As I've grown over, when you turn 18, right, your parents are telling you to vote, 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 all this stuff. But as you grow older in your own way, viewing the world and seeing all this stuff, you get disheartened of the point of, wait, so you're telling me it's corrupted, but I still need to vote anyway in order to make the change that never happens very well or on point or at all. And you still want me to keep doing it because you think it will change something. Okay, let me tell you how wrong that is just within one sentence alone. And that's the feeling I have. Like, I'm not on any spectrum of the aisle. I don't really care, or I don't care, because politics to me is the same as tribalism. It's as useless as the day it was created by humankind, and we do create things that are a double-edged sword. Don't get me wrong. But
Well, they've and that's the interesting thing about politics is that they've taken important things. Like, I think issues that people like, I'm driven by issues,
Right.
like I have obviously I have very strong views on various political issues,
right,
but that's not what I mean. Yes, I do vote, but do I like our system of voting? Not really much at all. And I mean, I'm not, like, I know everyone's like, oh, we got to save our democracy. And I'm like, is democracy really the best system, though, for real? It's like, y'all don't want to know everything I think about voting, because I don't think everybody who's allowed to vote should vote. But what's kind of happened with politics is we've turned it into this notion that we've created a system where politicians, they benefit just by telling people, I'm on this side, not I stand for this issue and this issue and this issue. It's no longer about principle. That's, to me, the most toxic thing about politics is principle has nothing to do with anything anymore. It's just about, we have to win. And I'm like, do you not realize that there's no such thing as winning if there are no principles? What is winning? It's like, because this person represents your team. It's like, if your principles are interchangeable with your candidate, what are you winning? It's like, what actually are you winning? It's like, I thought this was supposed to be that we're voting for this person because I have these principles, and this person most closely aligns with those principles. That used to be what it was. I mean, if you look at recently, and I'm a very conservative person, and I do plan on voting for Donald Trump, but you had Kyle Rittenhouse recently come out and say that he didn't think he was going to vote for Trump because he was like, I don't think he stands strongly on the Second Amendment. And all of these people on the right, flipped their lid on him and were saying he's a traitor and all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, hang on just a sec. I was like, now, I don't agree with him but he's young. It's like, I appreciate so much that he's standing on principle. Do I think it's a misallocation of his principle to think that way? Which, by the way, he changed his mind. He talked with some people in the Trump campaign. He changed his mind. But I was like, you have a kid here who was saved from a double murder charge, which was bogus. That double murder charge was bullcrap as far as I'm concerned. I'm glad he got off. And I'm like, but he got off because of the Second Amendment. So of course he's going to be feel very strongly about that. It saved his livelihood. So he feels very strongly about that. He didn't think that he didn't think either of the two primary candidates were on his side as far as that was concerned. So he was like, look, I'm going to vote for somebody else who does. Now, again, I'm like, okay, I can understand why people would be like, no, you're thinking about this the wrong way. You're misallocating your principles because you're basically wasting your vote. And that's something that I had to come to terms with when I was young. I used to be kind of idealistic in that sense too. But I was like, I appreciated so much that he was standing on principle. And I was like, you all are freaking out because he doesn't want to play for your team. That's it. That's all this is. It has nothing. I was like, you all are supposed to be about principles. If you really want to help this kid, show him why he's mistaken. Don't say, oh, you're a traitor because you're not on our team anymore. It's like, what is wrong with you people? It's it reminds me of like the way you hear about these people who like leave Scientology, and like the
Yeah,
people in charge of that whole thing like go after them and try to smear their name. And I'm like, is that what this has become? I was like, have both sides just become very, two different cults that hate each other's guts? Because that's often what it feels like when I'm just sitting here like, I still believe in my principles. Maybe I'm weird, but I still believe in my principle, and I tend to try to vote along those lines.
Right.
But yeah, it's so odd now. It's so bizarre.
It's a thing. Well, of course, it's again going back to the whole tribal aspect. That's basically what it was at its core. It also was a mob rule sort of thing, right? Like the mob came and said, "Hey, it doesn't matter what side you're on. There's always a mob. It does not matter. No side is perfect." However, you won't have the unity you want out of a country because everyone's different in the perspective of the environment they grew up in, the things they were taught by their parents, or if they had no parents at all, or their schooling, or whatever. The whole variableness of what your environment you're in and state you're in, and all this other stuff, can make who you are to a degree. And then as an adult, you either reinforce those ideas or you change your ideas after going through some maybe baptism of fire or whatever, just walking through life. My thing, however, is I simply say all sides, all political identities are BS. And the reason why I say that is because they all are. They always have been. They're an unnecessary thing to a thing that's finite, right? Like it's the saying of, what was it? Old men plant trees that they'll never sit under. Something to that effect. And the part of the matter is that it's kind of sad in a way, because you'd want to see something of fruition come before you go. And if you plant something without even seeing it work a little bit, then the tree you plant can die, and the whole meaning is pointless. And so for me, I don't care what party you consider yourself, or a football team, whatever. At the end of the day, I will still come to this table to sit and talk with you. And if you're willing to be respectful enough to respond back, that's great. If not, there are 1,000 other people you can bother with your attitude and go from there.
Part of one way I've been very blessed on this platform is that I've managed to encounter a good number of people that, politically, I know that me and some of these people have some very strong disagreements.
Yeah.
I'm well aware of that. We have theological disagreements. I'm very open about what I believe about things. It's anybody who follows. It's funny. Some of this might be because of bots, but I know I often will like gain some followers and lose some followers, and I kind of hover around the same ones. And I know oftentimes it's probably because of some of the stuff I say. I feel I have my foundation for my morality is the Bible. The Bible says a lot of things that people don't like. Yeah. And I very openly put that stuff out there. It's like, I think this. Like, you put one tweet out there saying, you know what, women, not sure I think they should vote. People are like, what? I'm like, I don't think they should. And I have a lot of other people I don't think should either. And and I know that stuff is controversial. I'm not trying necessarily to needle people and trigger them or whatever. I mean, granted, I do have a biting sense of humor, and sometimes I'll put stuff out there to mess around with people. But most of the time, if I'm putting stuff like very serious out there, I'm putting it out there in response to something else. Yeah. Exactly, Cool Frog. Exactly. I'm typically responding to something else, but I try to respond, as honestly as I can with the information I have, or with the principles I hold. And there's, like I said, there's plenty of my friends who would disagree with me, who see that. Sometimes we have a bit of back and forth about it. Sometimes they ignore what I say. Sometimes I'll put out stuff like there, and I'll similarly ignore what they say, and that's fine. And then, but when we come to the table for a movie discussion or a talk about whatever, that's what we talk about. We laugh and we have a good time, and that's pretty much that. All of our disagreements aside, and it's fine. That's fine because I don't want to be one of those people who just, if we could only go back to that. I'm like, well, I don't necessarily like that kind of thinking because I'm like, there
Yeah.
were plenty of things wrong with back then too. I mean, we got here some way, so
Yeah.
something had to have been wrong back then.
Yeah.
But it's more just an appeal to, can we get back to this principle? Can we get back to this principle where we can disagree amicably? You know,
Yeah.
can we get back to that? Not because that's what we used to do, but because it's right. You know, it's like it's one thing to be nostalgic for the past, and I'm like, that's
Yeah.
fine, but you know, to me it's more about, can we get back to this principle because it's actually a good one, not because we used to do it and it was good. It's because no, it's good all the time.
Yeah, and there's going to be, of course, there's going to be stipulations of what is agreed upon of what. But before we continue any further, so there's a thing I do that at the top of the hour of every hour, of course, that I have the guest, I set aside some time for us to promote ourselves, which is basically I put your stuff in the link, the link description down below. But if you want to, as the kids say, stand up on stage and promote yourself, the floor is yours.
All right, well, I would say if you want to check out my content, the three primary places you go, I mean, the main place you can go is just go to YouTube and search The Gourd King, and you will find my main channel. That's where I post, like movie stuff, movie reviews. I've kind of just gotten back into the swing of that. It had been a little while since I had posted anything because I was toying with the new format. I was upgrading my hardware, all that good stuff. But that is my main channel, and if you go to the homepage on there, you will see that I have two other channels. One of them is called Gourdish Memes, which is my most popular channel at the moment.
Right.
I usually post bi-weekly videos there where, you'll see like clips of things like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris said, and with a few little meme responses, like movie clips inserted in there for some good fun. I just released a new video there yesterday. Me and Whitey actually did a dual meme release. I was working on one, and he was saying that, yeah, I'm getting ready to release this one, and I was like, are you putting that out today? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, hang on, let's do a dual release. We could do dual premieres. How fun. And he was like, yeah, that'll be awesome. So we did a little dual premiere yesterday. That was actually a lot of fun. Whitey is really one of my favorite people I've met on this platform. He's like having another brother, and Vex is like having another sister, and Cannoli's like having another brother. It's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, those. And if you ever want to hang out while I'm gaming live, you can head one of the other channels you'll see on the main one is Gaming with Gourd. I mostly, all I do there is I will live stream whatever I'm playing, and I will mess around with the chat. We'll goof off. We'll talk about whatever. It's mostly, I find that it's mostly just me having conversations with people while I happen to be playing something.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll talk about the actual game because I do like gaming a lot. It's fun, but I find that oftentimes we will be talking about stuff that has nothing to do with the game. Into a lot of like sports discussions or movie discussions or whatever while I'm playing like Mass Effect or something.
Yeah, that's awesome to do. And of course, I did notice you had a Rumble channel, but I can understand why you don't promote it. But with things being as late, I'll add that in at the end of it. But
yeah, I've only kind of loosely paid attention to it because I don't fully understand Rumble, and I'm kind of slowly putting my stuff out there, but I don't know how Rumble works that well, so I'm just like, okay, here it is in case.
All you have to do is ask, and I shall do my best. So whenever you'd like that. But anyway, for my end of things, so I streamed
Clear that throat.
Yes. So I stream to both YouTube and Rumble, and of course I'm using Rumble Studios to stream to both areas. But if you wouldn't mind following, leaving a comment or sharing, anything that helps with the engagement, helps in being seen more, which helps bring more people on. At first, at the beginning of doing all this, I was hesitant to ask for that stuff because it's like, yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm begging, whatever. But then I realized if I want more people to come on, right, like you and Vex and so many others, I've got to be seen more. Because I do, most of the people I've had on have been through connecting with others who had been on. So that's how I've had so many people. I had close to 100 people so far. I'm a little over 90. I'll probably make over, around 100 people till the end of the month, but we will see. I'll have to recount my stuff again. But yeah, so if you wouldn't mind helping with the engagement factor, I appreciate it because that helps bring more eyes to be seen and more guests to be on. That's right. That's right, you in the chat, you either on YouTube or Rumble, if you're watching, if you would like to have the chance to come on, there's a link tree down below in the description with, of course, you'll see pumpkin stuff as well. Gourd stuff. He has a pumpkin in it. All right, it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you'd like that same opportunity to come on, like the Gourd King, like Vex, like White Bear, and so many others, go to the link tree down below. Find me at my stuff. I have an email. I have Twitter X. I have Discord. I have all this stuff. Or if you don't want to do that at all, just leave a comment on either YouTube or Rumble, and we can get started. Because again, I don't care if you're not a creator. I don't care if you are a creator. The point of the matter is to share this with a lot of different people, as long as you're willing to be respectful, of course. This is a thing to share with a lot of different people, to get many different perspectives like the Gourd Kings here, and just to have a fun, free-flowing conversation, because that is what it is at the end of the day. This isn't I've seen a lot of content creators who have topics, rumble boomers. Hey, I understand that. That's why I say if you need some help with things, I'll try to help where I can. So don't fret. But my thing is I follow a lot of different content creators, then usually stay within a niche area, and which is fine, right? Because there are a lot of people who talk about Star Wars, a lot of people talk about Star Trek, and all that stuff, and they stay in those fields. But you can only talk about those fields for so long or whatever. And for me, it's like I am free to go anywhere, even if I don't understand it a majority of the time. But I can go just about anywhere, and for me, that's the most freeing thing ever. Because I've been on a few shows like yours, how you guys do your stuff, but it's very it almost feels constrictive to me, because then I'm following this, here's the topics, all this stuff, and I'm not saying anything bad against it. It's just the mindset of I've been in this free open space, now I got to be constrictive. I'm like, come on. But
I mean, dude, if anybody has paid attention to my content on my movie channel, they'll know that I'm very changeable in a similar respect. I've toyed with various formats and stuff like that, because I similarly am like, okay, I'm tired of doing things this way. I want to do it this way. And it's kind of a similar mindset that goes into what you decide you want to watch on YouTube, or who you decide you want to follow. Because sometimes you're in a movie mood, sometimes you're in a political mood, sometimes you're in a whatever mood, and there's so many different areas you can go to. There's so many options, and yeah, it's good to have a poo-poo platter of creators to follow.
not a poo-poo platter.
No, poo-poo platter is not a dirty thing. It's just a platter with various foods on it that sounds really funny.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It is funny to say it's just poo-poo platter, and people laugh at fart jokes. And
it's like clean the poop deck, and people think, whoa, I gotta clean up what? And it's like, no, it's not what you think.
Did you see the title I came up with when Jack was on?
I don't think I saw. I don't remember the title. I don't think.
I have to show it. Because it's too hilarious.
I'm looking. Oh, okay, I see that. Okay, yeah, I did catch that. I think I just forgot it for a sec, but yes, it's progress.
I'll show the rest of the chat. So this is the title I came up with for having Jack Tarlett on yesterday, and it's right here.
To progress.
And of course I've tried, whenever Jack comes on, I try to do something with his name, because they're like jacked in or something that matter, or jacked up, whatever. And I was like, I came with it like a few weeks ago, and I was like, I've gotta have it on there. I've got to put it in there, and I did, and I was like, yeah. I'm
not gonna lie. So the first time I've only streamed with Jack once, and it was on Words of Paradise, which I know you've had him on as well. I streamed with him once, and I swear when I looked at his name, I thought it said Jack Latard. And I thought for like several weeks that, he just named himself something kind of funny, Jack Latard. That's pretty hilarious. And so for weeks, I'd see his name and thought, that's Jack Latard. And then I actually stared at his name for a second. I was like, it's not Jack. I'm glad I didn't say that to him. Like, what's up, Jack Latard? I mean, great. He probably would have just thought I was joking, but I would have probably called it called him it so many times that he'd be like, "Wait, do you think that's my actual name?" Because I was like, "Well, for a while I thought it was," but
Yeah.
then I looked, I was like, "Oh, that's not what it is."
He remembers that. Oh, he's watching now. He's watching. Well, the funny thing is, the first time I had Jack on, I mistook his name. I thought it said Jack Tarland. I thought it actually said Jack Tarland.
Tarland? Yeah.
Yeah, Charland. And so I put it up. That was the
Yeah,
first
I
one.
just thought Jack Latard. I don't know why my brain did that little tism the first time I looked at it, but like for a month, I thought that's what it was. And then I actually looked at it, I was like, that's not it.
Nope.
Stop. I was like, no, that's my brain finally registered. No, Tarlad. And I was like, oh.
Well, and then sometimes they'll look at it and say it's Jack Tard lad. What? Jack Tard? And it's not that, but it's funny. Just you made up the
I
name,
think
Jack.
he's messing with people, and I think it's great.
You made up the name, Jack. You gotta accept the laughing at. Latard is so much better. Yes, it sounds like LaForge from Star Trek. Here is Jack LaForge.
Yeah, I actually did create my name with the intention of like puns and jokes and stuff like that. Because I know Gourd is very interchangeable with other words. You can.
I was
you can do that with so many things, and I'm like, that's part of why I picked it. I was like, that's part of why I came up with this, because it's a malleable word that gets in people's ears, and people start making the jokes in reference to you, and I'm like, that's what I like.
I was gonna say how gorgeous you are, but that sometimes it doesn't.
Hey, I have said gorgeous before. Absolutely, that is totally fine. I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter how bad the pun is, say it. And just lean right into it. Like it's the Norm Macdonald approach. It can be a really bad joke. Lean into it. Yep. If they don't laugh, enjoy their cringe. It's still great.
I do try to do that. Now, do you know who he's talking about?
Admiral Teague. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know who Admiral Teague is. Yeah.
If you can get me his contact stuff, because I can't do anything this month because August is full. But maybe in September I can try and contact him, because again, this is
one or two groups with him.
Yeah, because this is how I can get other people. This is how I get other people on, is through this, through this also too. So it's like a few of your followers came and followed me on Twitter X, and like that's another group of people I can ask to come on. So there you go.
Yeah, he's easy enough to find on Twitter. It's Admiral _Teague, Teeg. Yeah, Admirable Teague.
He is admirable. Did you hear that, sir? You are admirable. And the Gourd said so. Okay. Oh, thank you for that, White Bear. Thank you for that. I'll try contacting him when it's closer to September.
I know he's like a big Star Trek fan. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I'll definitely try to get him on. And of course there's other people I'll try to get to. Again, through people I've had on, they've connected me with others, and you guys are connecting me with others, and I can use that. A lot of people have the opportunity to come on, whether they're content creator or not. And I find the fascination is that but some of the content creators I follow, they only follow, and I think I said this earlier, they only follow people who are either getting well known or higher up or whatever. I'm just like, why? I'm on the ground floor. Why not just go for everyone, or at least everyone who's respectful enough to want to come on, or who wants to come on, right? Because you can have those troll people who just don't want to have a conversation and want to destroy stuff. But so I know people, okay, and I know I've seen other content creators do it too. But I know people focus on how many followers they have, how much this or super chats, whatever. I get that, right? It helps with the credibility factor. But for me, the biggest number that means much to me, and now again, all the stuff that I get, whether it be the donos, the likes, the follows, whatever, those are all bonuses to the real goal. This is, talking to you, talking to White Bear, and so many others. I have had close to about 100 different people on Darachat, right? And for me, that's probably the biggest number. That means a lot, because that shows that I've had of close to 100 different people who are willing to come on, that will give me a shot, and I can use that helps with my credibility as well, to keep asking more people on to go higher and all this stuff, because I could still easily be ignored. I can still be told to hit the curb or whatever, but I'm trying to build that credibility, so I'm not, and it's not building the credibility and leaving people in the dust. Jack Tarlad has been on 8 times now. Jack Tarlett has been on
That's awesome.
8 times. People who are on once, it doesn't have to be a one-time ordeal, but for some it is, because I don't know why. Right? You can't. Hey, oh yeah, there's Toasty. She's been on 3 times. Yeah, you could say boo all you want, young lady, but you're in my cat now.
Hi, Toasty.
You're in my jungle. Okay, Jack, keep an eye on her. Make sure she
Is this
behaves
a rumble?
herself.
Is this a rumble in the jungle?
I'm rumbling on 2 jungles, so that's
Nice.
But no,
Ali.
I've had a lot of different people on, and of course everyone's always welcome to come back. But it's the thing of, from my perspective, I didn't see a lot of creators doing that. They just, so you have content creators, right? 1,000, 100,000, whatever that might be, and it's mostly just the YouTube side, because I know Rumble still has some issues, but it's getting there. Just imagine, right? I know you don't, but let's just say you have 100,000 people, right? And have them watch whatever. Just imagine that you're able to bring at least one person, have a one-on-one to 100,000 different people. Do you know how life-changing that would be?
Yeah.
I can't imagine, right? And then there's some content creators that don't do it. They just go for higher or level, whatever, who get in their circle, that sort of thing. But just imagine, right? You bring someone on, of course, they're respectful and all that stuff, but you're able to bring them on, and you have 100,000 different chances to have that same sort of thing. Not exactly, but same sort of thing. And I'm like, that's amazing. Why isn't anyone doing that? I'm not seeing anyone doing that. Why isn't anyone doing that? That'd be the most amazing thing in the world, right? Because Mr. Beast is influential with people. PewDiePie, of course. Markiplier, obviously. But how many times have they brought people on that just was from the following, right? There's an actual person, not a bot or whatever, and just brought them on, had a conversation for an hour, and you could go on to the next person. I just didn't see that. And I'm grateful I get to do that, because it shows that it's needed. Because, I mean, I know it'd probably be better face to face, Gourd. One day I'll get to see your face and say, "It's not a pumpkin. It's a lie."
Well, you think that. If you watch my last video, you will see a pumpkin on a treadmill. So, I mean, as far as my viewers are concerned, and my story is me. So, I mean, there's the cute cartoon avatar. That's the hook. But when you actually see, it's still a pumpkin.
It was a pumpkin after all. The murderer. No, but when I saw your PFP, I was like, that kind of reminds me of Jack from the Return to Oz sort of thing. That's my first thought that popped in my head. Is like, he's Jack from Jack the Pumpkinhead.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but it was like,
I probably have. It's just been a really, really long time. I'm definitely aware of who he is, but
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say like he was necessarily like the inspiration for the character or anything, but I mean, in a sense, like there were a lot of inspirations, and I'm sure like he is in the ether some way inspiring it.
Yeah, it's funny how something can happen early in your life or whatever, and then years later it kind of either inspires or it crosses it smashes into something else and becomes this different thing that you use. It's a very weird thing how the environment of what you grew up in or whatever can become a influence on you in the future. And I think that's where a lot of you see the news about the teacher schools and whatnot, how much of that can be very devastating. And I do think that and this, we don't have to get on this fact or whatever, but if you want people or parents in the having their kids in school but they don't want to deal with all this stuff, they're going to have to make hard decisions in order to better to get away from that complaint or whatever, to solve the issue that they believe is unsolvable, if that makes sense. But yeah, it is what it is, at least for now. But
Yeah, as far as like reaching people and like the numbers thing,
mm,
for me, I don't put too much thought into credibility, I guess.
mhm,
I mean, obviously I like the idea of what I have to say about the subjects I cover being valued, because
right.
when I'm on something like MMM, or I'm a guest somewhere else and we're talking about a film, obviously, if people have some level of trust or interest in what you have to say, that's a good thing. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's part of the niche, in my case, I'm trying to carve out. So it's like, as far
Mhm,
as credibility goes, obviously that's a good thing. I don't really base that credibility on numbers, because there's plenty of YouTubers out there who cover movies that have gobs and gobs of followers, hundreds of
yeah.
thousands, even millions, that I think are terrible at it. Uh, not because I have any personal animosity against them, but because I
Right,
genuinely think that they're bad at what they do.
right.
Uh, but that's but as far as like when I look at number, because I've had a few videos that have done reasonably well.
Right.
I mean, I have a meme video that reached 500,000 people, which is mind blowing to me. I mean,
Nice.
I that came out of nowhere, and that ball kept rolling and rolling for several months, and I was like, wow. But I never took that as, this gives me credibility as a
Mhm,
memer or
yeah.
as a creator or something. Yes, it feels great to be able to say that. I'm very proud of that in that sense. I was like, wow, I actually put together a piece of content
Mhm,
that 500,000 people watched. Most of them really, really liked it.
mhm,
A ton of people engaged with it. That feels great.
mhm.
But the bigger part of that for me with any piece of content I put out there is, I just hope you had a good time. But it's like,
Yeah.
were you entertained? Because that's the part of it I actually really enjoy. That's part of the reason I made my last movie video, purely for the sake of just, I want to see if I can make people laugh with this.
Right.
I want to see if the people who engaged with this laughed at it and they had a good time. Because I was like, I want to say something about this movie, but I want people to come back to this. I want people to feel like, this isn't just something I want to watch once. I want to watch it again. And I'm like, if I
Mhm,
can entertain you, that's even better. And so when I look at number of likes or the number of people who subscribe off of a video, I don't really look at it as, oh, look how much credibility I'm getting.
No,
It's more awesome that this person was entertained. They put a like on it. Wow, this
yeah.
person was so entertained. They want to see what I come out with next. That's awesome. I was like, that's really, really cool. And it's not necessarily a feeling of validation as
Mhm,
far as like, I'm finally making it. It's more, I did my job that time.
yeah.
It's like, I did my job this time. I did it well enough for this person, and that makes me happy. I brought them at least some measure of joy.
Yeah.
I'm pleased with that. And not to delve too much too often into the principles thing, but I do like as somebody who likes to tell jokes and has is known for having kind of a comedic bend to him.
Right.
One of the most challenging things for me is knowing that when I am telling these jokes and when I am goofing off like that, I'm trying to do it in a way that's relatively clean. I mean, yes, I
Mhm,
have some jokes that have some edge to them, but one of my principles is that if I don't want a kid to be watching my stuff and then a parent walk in and be like horrified that their kid is watching me, I want them to know it's like, oh, it's okay if they watch the Gourd King's reviews, or it's okay if they watch the Gourd King's memes, because there's no
right.
language in them. There's no sex or nudity in them. There's not a
Mhm,
bunch of graphic violence. I even blur that stuff out. I'm like, I try to keep it relatively family friendly with but still tell jokes that take the viewer aback a little bit, like, oh, that's actually pretty cutting there. And it's like, yeah, but I did it without a single F-bomb or anything like
yeah.
that. It's like, it's family friendly, but also, you might get in trouble if they figure that joke out. But yeah, when I see someone like something or subscribes to me based on something like that, I'm like, I did my job for that person. That's
Yeah.
good.
Well, I probably should put it. I probably should put it this way. It's more on the basis. I mean, I say credibility, but more of like maybe name recognition, right? Because again, if I try to ask somebody on, right, they could outright deny me because they could look at my numbers and say, "Oh, you're not worth it," whatever. Because there are people who
Well, no, you're
judge.
not wrong. You're not
Yeah,
wrong that a lot of content creators, that's exactly how they take their numbers. That's
yeah,
exactly how they'll look at their numbers is, I have this many followers, I get this many views. this is how credible I am compared to you, who has
Yeah.
less of those. There are plenty of content creators who think precisely along those lines, and it's really strange. I mean, look, I have friends whose shows I go on, and I might have one channel that has more subscribers than they do.
Yeah.
And yet I still will go in there thinking they've been at this way longer than I have. They're way better. Or usually when I'm a guest on someone's show, I'm thinking, well, I'm in their space. They know their stuff in this space better than I do. So that's what I respect about what they're doing. It doesn't matter if, like, oh, I'm coming in with 4,600 subscribers on my meme channel, and I am on this news channel, or I'm on this interview channel. I'm like, I don't know anything about interviewing somebody one-on-one. I don't know anything about covering news and doing it in a manner that draws in viewers and subscribers. They're way better at this than I am. I'm a guest. I am in their realm. It's like, you lead. You have way more credibility than I do in this realm because I don't know squat about it. Thanks for having me.
Neither do I. Again, I don't see this thing I do as an interview because you can ask me questions, right? Is it still an interview when you can ask me questions? Interview is just a one-way transaction, right? It always is. But when it
conversation, but yeah, I mean, it's like however, but even running a one-on-one conversation, whether it's interview or just conversation, I mean, it's like that's a skill that takes some honing, that takes some learning, and if you come in if I'm not doing that myself. And I'm coming into somebody's space, I don't care if I have more subscribers than they do. I don't know how to do what they're doing, or at least do it well enough to, put myself out there and make a channel off of it. So why in the world would I think I have more credibility than this person? That's weird.
I guess
it'd be like me showing up to a mechanic's. Oh, this mechanic only has 500 subscribers. I have 4,500 on my meme channel. I'll show you how to fix this car.
I'm
like,
the
what are
big
you
man
talking
now.
about? Like, you don't know how to fix a car, but I have more subscribers, so my credibility is higher.
I guess I say it wrong. I just say it from the perspective of I can still be denied by asking someone coming on, and they can look at my numbers and say you're not worth me coming on, or them or whatever. And like you said, that can be the case. But for me, it's just on building that. Yes, it is a numbers game to many of the content creators because some of them survive.
You're not wrong about this, because there are people, that's why they go on these other shows, is it's pure self-promotion.
Cool frog coming in for Joe Biden joke. Hey, Tommy, how are you,
What's
sir?
up, Tommy?
Yeah,
no, there's a lot of people that'll go on that won't go on smaller channels, quote unquote, for that very reason. So you're not wrong about that, but I feel like that mindset, and I'm not saying anybody is obliged to go to anyone's channel. You don't necessarily have to do that. You don't owe anybody that. Anytime I'm a guest, I don't come onto it thinking, they owed me, or I'm owed their time, or I don't, I obviously like it when my friends or other people come and view my stuff or whatever, but I'm like, you don't owe me your time, even if I give you mine. It's a gift. Time is limited. That's all good. But when people don't go on to channels specifically because of their size or whatever, and I'm like, are you just in this to promote yourself, or are you actually going on because you're interested in the person who's talking? It's like I know several content creators who, by YouTube standards, don't have a lot of subscribers, and they're freaking awesome at what they do. They're really, it's like, I'll go ahead and promote somebody I know right now. And granted, he hasn't been able to create in a while because of his work, but a guy named Amateur Analyst, he's only been able to do a few essays, but holy crap, he's good at it. And I'm like, he made one about that show Arcane, and it was so good that like Critical Drinker caught wind of it and promoted it and stuff. I mean, I don't think he even has 1,000 subscribers right now, but if he's someone who's so good that if he was able to keep at it, and that he could make a living off of it easily, because he's great at it. But if somebody were to just base whether they were going to work with him on his subscriber count, then I'd be like, well, you're the one missing out, because this person actually has a ton of talent. If you're just basing it on, they've only got such and such number of subscribers, it's like, and it's like, are they good at it? Because if they're good at it, or if it's an interview situation and the person who's talking to you is interesting, then who the heck cares what their subscriber count is? You actually might get to know somebody really cool.
Yeah, it's like the difference between having a was it like that paper from college and then not and just having a GED, right? Like if you have a lot of places you need to have a degree and whatever in order to work at their place, and they tend to miss people who are really good at whatever that business is, but because they needed that paper, skipped over it. And I really do think a lot of creators miss out on having a conversation. There's always a conversation to have, but there's that one or two conversations that you have in your life where they're the conversation of a lifetime, right? Well, you could say that about having with a star or what have you, but there's always that few people who you have a conversation with, and it feels like the conversation of a lifetime, and yet it's just gone like that. And so all you have is the memory of it. And I do think, and I treat every person as the conversation of a lifetime because, again, some people have only come on once, and that's that. I can't seem to ask back on. Or people I try to ask and they never respond at all. I'm just like, well, that's great. Oh, no, I'm knocking on the door. Just please answer. That's how I did it with Vex. I just knocked on her door and she said, "What the do you want?" And I was like, poor boy. But yeah, but again, most of the people I've had on are through a connection with one to the other, and would you agree that word of mouth is a pretty good way of going about things?
As
Because
far as being a content creator,
well, just getting it. Well, yeah, part of that, and then getting interest in your stuff, because relying on the algorithm or trying to chase the algorithm is, I feel, is like the same thing with the monetization factor, where you're chasing the monetization factor to get making money stuff, which is nothing wrong to take money if you're making content, whatever. But if that's your tail all to creating content, I'm like,
well, I mean, we talked about this earlier. Like I
yeah,
feel like that's a great formula for getting yourself pretty burnt out.
yeah,
And it's also, I mean, granted, there are some content creators that, granted, I think they have a little bit of inside help, but I mean, seriously, I think there are big content creators. They either have access directly to YouTube telling them this is what the algorithm's going to favor, or I mean, granted, for somebody covering movies, that's not necessarily the hardest thing to figure out. I mean, what's the
right,
newest popular movie? Boom,
yeah,
there's your algorithm. That's easy.
mhm,
But as far as like some people are like, "Ooh, we're going to talk about X subject, and it's going to get really popular all of a sudden," um, because I think they probably have people who tell them what the algorithm's about to favor. But if you're just kind of your average person doing it solo, or maybe you're one of a 2 or 3 team party,
mhm,
chasing the algorithm is, I think, a good way to burn yourself out. I
yeah,
like more the idea of my own content gaining popularity because people feel inclined to say, "Hey, you should check out this person," because
yeah,
they make something that's that, to me, at the very least, that's more satisfying than
yeah,
chasing the algorithm. Granted, if you are so skilled at whatever your craft is that it doesn't necessarily matter what subject you're covering,
mm,
that you're going to have a good time making it, you're going to make something good and people are going to watch it, go for it. Chase the algorithm. That's fantastic. If all that can come together and you can have a good time, that's awesome. Good for you. You're probably the perfect person for YouTube. Even it's like, whether you like YouTube or not, you're probably the
yeah,
perfect person for it, because your interests, they just align that way, and that's fantastic.
mhm,
But that's not all of us. I know that's really not me. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of always covering the new thing. I rarely cover movies that are just now coming out. In a Violent Nature is probably one of the most recent, releases my video examples I have. Maybe the other one was Peter Pan and Wendy, back when I did that video last year,
mhm,
where that was relatively close to the release date. But typically I'm talking about stuff that's been out for a little while,
yeah,
because I like the idea of ruminating on stuff for a bit. I kind of like when the conversation dies down and there's not a bunch of influence. It's like, you really can't accuse me of going along with the tide when the tide is already waned. It's like, no,
yeah,
it's like all the people chasing the algorithm have kind of quieted down. Now I'm going to tell you what I think of this. But of course, now I'm delving into something a little bit more comedic. So that frees me up to do a video about whatever thing I want, whenever I feel like doing it. And and like I said, the work I'm planning on putting out for that channel at least is going to if word of mouth gets it out there, that's almost the only means by which I have to growing on that channel, because it's going to require word of mouth, because I'm generally going to be covering stuff that's been out for a little while. So people will have to enjoy it and say, hey, come check this guy out. His stuff's really good. Or they won't, and that'll be fine too. Hopefully I'll just have a good time either way.
Yeah, and I think that beats the algorithm portion too, because word of mouth has more of a, especially with social media as it is, right? But I think it has a more powerful effect. Whitebeard is calling you out.
Sorry, Whitey, that video is still gonna happen. I just have to decide if it's gonna be purely on the funny side or if I'm gonna full on essay that. I'm still leaning essay to that movie.
Essay. But no,
I don't know if I could do that movie in 15 minutes. I have too much to say about it.
Gordon 15. But no, like I've said this too, is, enjoy what you're doing, because it makes because you see those, not in the burnout factor, but they become hollow. They become hollow when they keep doing something they don't enjoy. And I do see a lot of, again, as we said earlier, you do see a lot of people paying attention to the numbers and stuff, and they start creating on that factor, whatever. But I do like the word of mouth portion, because again, I do the streams and then I do shorts, because it's small wheel paying into the big wheel sort of thing. But I do think it beats out the algorithm majority of the time, because the algorithm only serves what? The platform that it's on. Word of mouth can serve everywhere. Everywhere that
if
you're
you're
at.
if you're chasing the algorithm, I almost feel like your odds of sticking out, those tend to go down if you're a smaller creator. Now, if you're a big creator, you can chase the algorithm all you want. And you've already got a huge built-in following, so that's going to give. So if you're like someone like the Critical Drinker and you have 2 million followers, which I'm not, by the way, I'm not accusing him of chasing the algorithm. I'm like most everything he does. He's one of my favorite creators out there. But when you have a huge following like that, you can chase the algorithm because you've got 2 million followers at your base. So let's say 100,000 of them day one are watching your thing. Guess what? YouTube's algorithm is going to push what you do in all likelihood, because the algorithm is favoring that movie, and you've already got a bunch of people watching. So they're like, well, we have every inclination now to push this, because that's going to make them ad revenue. But more importantly, it's going to make us ad revenue. So that, win-win for them. But if you're smaller and you're trying to do that, you're trying to do what 1,000 other people are trying to do. And maybe a couple of you it's going to hit. And that's great. Whereas if, and this is obviously mostly just pertaining to movies. You'd have to recontextualize this if you're covering some other type of subject on your channel. But, if you're like me and say, like, if I write a poorly explained video for like Harry Potter, which I do want to do.
You want to make a poorly written one. Okay, I understand.
No, poorly. I want to, it's like I am piecing together a poorly explained, where I poorly explain the plot of Harry Potter. That is in the works, I will say. But the people who are going to be like, I have about 1,200 subscribers on that channel right now. Let's say half of them decide they're going to watch right out of the gate or within the first week or so. Great. Right. The other people who are likely to find that are people who happen to be searching Harry Potter stuff at that time. Right. Not going to be as much as the people talking about the current thing, unless Harry Potter some way finds itself back in the news or something. But let's say, a decent amount of people happen to be searching it that week, and word of mouth gets going like, oh, wow, this actually is pretty hilarious. Or people who are just searching for a comedic movie-related video or a comedic video in general, they'd be like, this seems intriguing. I think putting poorly explained on my thumbnail tells them this is going to be something that's at least attempting to be funny. Right. Let's see if it's funny. That to me is far more satisfying. That way I can make the thing I want, and there's still a chance it gets the ball rolling. I have measured expectations for those like that the End of Violent Nature video. I didn't expect a whole lot from it. It had been a while since I posted anything on the channel. It was a new format. The movie had kind of, its momentum was more or less waned at the time.
Right.
But I was like, I don't care if it's 100 people who watch, a few hundred people who watch. I'm putting it out there. Hopefully the people who saw it enjoy it. Let's see how it does. I'm mostly just trying to hone this skill of doing comedic videos because I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
And I had a good time making it. It's had for me at least, a relatively decent response. I'm happy with the response so far. I've gained subscribers off it. The people comment seem to think it's really fun and funny.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like even 1,000 views yet, but I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. That's totally fine. It's got like 600 some odd views so far after I think I put it out Monday. So I was like, yeah, I'm totally cool with that. We'll see what happens in the meantime. I'm glad the people who are watching it are enjoying it. I just know I had a really good time putting it out there. And heck, I've rewatched the video and I'm like, yeah, I did this well. I did this well. And I'm kind of like, well, maybe I could do this a little bit better. But all I know is that I made a piece of content I'm proud of, and I'm glad that the people who watch it are enjoying it. That's the main goal, is to entertain and to have a good time doing it.
And that's what makes you the king of the gourds. Anyway, I forgot to ask that. How did you? Oh, look, there you go.
Oh, thanks, Cool Frog. You are a cool frog. You lived up to the name.
Yeah. How did you come up? What inspired the name?
Okay, so I don't know how well I can condense this story, but we'll see. All right, so
you got 10 minutes now. I'm just joking.
I can do that, no problem. But so initially the YouTube channel was going to be myself and one of my brothers. He's the oldest of my brothers, still younger than me. But we were kind of in a testing phase. We'd filmed a couple of test videos where we did a little bit of kind of scripted movie discussion. I'll be honest, I'm glad that never came fully to fruition, because especially now that I've done this for a little while, I know it's like, it felt very stifling. But the channel was going to be called See It Twice. It was kind of based on his and my personal philosophy regarding movies, about kind of how it's often better to see a movie more than once. That way you have some familiarity with it and you can generate, I think, a more well-informed opinion.
Right.
But then right around the time we finished our second kind of test video, he met his future wife. And the joke that we make with her is that she Yoko Ono'd us, which is not true, really. But because my sister-in-law is really, really awesome. But she can take that joke. It's great. But,
guys, she destroyed our band. Oh, crap.
She broke us up. But so we kind of had a little meeting where we decided, we would take the ideas part ways, because we were on different schedules. There was no way we were going to be able to do this that way.
Right.
And it took me a while to figure out exactly what I was doing, because kind of my strength was like, part of the reason I hated doing the scripted discussion thing was because my strength is playing off of a subject or another person. And so just doing this scripted thing, I was like, I don't feel like this is doing anything. This is weird. This doesn't feel creative. I'm not having fun. But it took me a while, but I eventually, after watching people, like Drinker, like Mahler, kind of do movies their way, because one of the other things that I guess held me back was seeing most content creators were very, very liberal. And I was just like, am I even welcome in this space? Do people actually want the movie opinions of somebody who doesn't look at everything through a liberal political lens? Because I, for one, would prefer to keep politics out of most of my movie discussions. You can't help it if it's part of the movie, but
right.
I would prefer to keep it out when I can. But eventually I started to find people who were more friendly to that point of view, who had similar preferences, and I was like, okay, so those people are out there. That's good. I took some cues from various people, and I was still kind of hanging on to that name, See It Twice. And when I had the idea for what my first video was going to be, it wasn't even a movie thing. It was going to be a video game video. And just because I didn't know squat about editing, but I was like, okay, I know I can gather footage if I do some live gaming streams, because I knew how to do that. I was like, that's easy. I can just stream right from my PlayStation. So I was like, I'm going to stream the game Cuphead. So it's a really hard game if you haven't played it. So that was
I
my
get
very
funny,
first
yeah.
thing I did. I started streaming Cuphead, and my goal was I'm going to take the footage and I'm going to cut together a boss ranking video, because I was like, I can already see the format in my head. I can, I can see the order, all that stuff. It's a structure that can teach me how to edit. That was the goal. That was the plan. And I put out my first video after I'd finished the playthrough and learned a good number of tricks. But right after I put out that first video, which is funny, it's like you'll if you want to find that video, it's on Gaming with Gourd. It's on that channel now. But if you listen to that first video, I'm pretty sure you hear me say, "Welcome to See It Twice." And I changed it by the second video. I rebranded by the second video. And what's funny is I had hung on to this name for years. Like when I say me and my brother were planning this channel, that was like back in 2016. I didn't start my channel like 6 years later.
Wow.
But it was right after that I changed it, and where I got the idea. I know this is a roundabout way of telling the story, but when my brother and I, when we had to go our separate ways and I needed something to play off of, one of the ideas I had was to kind of create this sidekick. And if you ever watch Craig Ferguson's old clips of his Late Show, I'm a huge fan of his stuff. I love the Late Show with Craig Ferguson. I almost wept when that went off the air. I think it's the greatest late show of all time. And what makes that show so freaking funny is his interactions with Jeff Peterson, which, granted, it's voiced by a real person, but it's just a talking robot. But it's this hilarious idea of this inanimate object that, well, not technically an inanimate object, but close enough. But one that he interacts with, that he can play off of. And that show was all improvised, so it was really fun. Yeah. So I was like, I was thinking of creating this sidekick, and I was like, okay, I need something simple, cheap, and kind of malleable, one that I can do a lot with. And it almost came to me immediately, this idea of having kind of this pumpkin sidekick, because you can change the faces on them, you can kind of dress them up. They have, because they're shaped like a head. That's why people use pumpkins on Halloween, is because you can shape a pumpkin that very well. And his original name was Gordon O'Malley. Gordon Gourd. I mean, that's what that was. But ultimately, obviously, I didn't do that. But I still had, I still have this plastic pumpkin, which, like I said, if you watch it, the In a Violent Nature video, you will see this pumpkin in the video. With this time, he has a crown on, though. If you go to my Gordish memes channel, you see this picture of the avatar is a pumpkin with this goofy looking like hobo hat and a pipe. Those are all props I own. I took a real picture of that and I animated it, and that's still an avatar I use. It's actually a watermark in my main channel's videos. But Gordon O'Malley, I was like, I'm not rebranding my channel Gordon O'Malley. That doesn't work. But one of the kind of jokes I had planned for this little sidekick was that we would sometimes dress him up like a king and call him the Gourd King. Because I've always hated the term God King. I think that's so, uppity when somebody calls him, oh, I'm a God King, or this person's a God King. I'm like, A, that's blasphemous. And B, it's like, how self-aggrandizing are you that you call yourself a God King? My gosh. So I came up with Gourd King kind of as a joke about that. It's like, and I thought about, and when I was thinking about, could I rebrand? I was like, what the heck would I rebrand as? Because I wanted it to be more of a character, a persona. See It Twice was almost more like the name of a show. I needed something a little bit more personal for people to call me. And I thought, well, what if you just take this on as your own persona, the pumpkin? It's like, nobody's going to see it now, because I had already kind of decided I was going to kind of do the Mahler thing and be off camera, just doing voiceover. I was like, well, what if you just become this as a character, and just call yourself the Gourd King? And I was like, and I thought about it for probably about a day or two. And I was like, yeah, I kind of like this, because I was really quickly seeing there's a lot of jokes I can make around this.
Yep.
This would be a very easy character to kind of get into when I'm doing this stuff. And it just, like I said, by the second video, I changed it. I changed it. Boom. And I was like, there we go. I'm keeping it. And I remember changing it, like some of my friends, like Facebook, who were like my first subscribers, were all like, wow, what? You changed the channel name, you changed your Facebook profile. And I'm like, yep, this is the persona now. Got to get with it. That's this is who you're talking to now. And they all kind of gravitate. They were all like, yeah, that's not the bad idea. That actually, I kind of get the appeal there. And then I had an artist. She did the avatar and the background stuff. Shout out to GFX Kate. She does great work. But yeah, I just decided to change it one day and landed on that, and it's stuck. It's stuck well. So there you go.
Yeah. Well,
and it's an easy one. What's great about it is you can get it in people's heads because there's so many puns you can make, and pumpkins are a pretty universal symbol once you start to think about it. There's a lot of movies you don't even realize you're seeing them in, but if I can get enough people thinking, ha, a pumpkin, Gourd King, there you go. It's like I'm already in your head.
get out, leave me alone. And the funny thing, Lee, what you off when people have always asked like, what is your show? How do you describe it? And of course, I came upon, it's a free flowing conversational show, which is basically is what it is. But at a certain point, someone was trying to, ask me how to describe it. And I was like, okay, well, it's a cross between, because I do enjoy rewatching clips of the Craig Ferguson show, because when you saw him with his guests, right, and majority of the time the clips are on the women, but when you saw him with his guests, though, it was he just kept things moving until it was their time to get off, and it was always just like his whole thing when the guest came on is he tore up those cards, right? He tore up the cue cards, just threw them on the ground, and it would just be a free for all. And I was like, that's awesome. Because
I remember when I first used to see him do that, I was like, I wonder why he does that. And then when I realized I didn't think a ton about it. It was something that I noticed, and I was like, he does that with every guest. That's weird. And then I was just like, oh, okay. But I wasn't thinking about it. But then when I thought about it, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's because this is improvised. And he's like, that whole show is just mocking the format, which is great.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, and he gets censored for the curse words. And also the other one was, because there were two shows, right? There was the Craig Ferguson show, and then there was Whose Line Is It Anyway? Because I not the UK version, but the US version, right, with Drew Carey back in the day. And that's a whole show about improvisation. So I could say that my whole show is improvisational, but the point of the matter is that there is a freedom to it. In that sense, is that you can just go just about anywhere with it. And of course, that can lead down some dark roads or whatever, but the majority of the time, it rarely happens. But there's a majority of the time you can go down, just like we started talking about whatever, and we're almost at 2 hours of now this. So it's like you didn't notice it, though. You didn't notice it until I said something.
No, I mean, it's just that was part of what made that show great. And granted, it doesn't hurt when you're funny and charming, like because that's Scottish. I mean, what's so amusing to go back and watch that show is he left at the perfect time. As much as it hurt to see him go, he left in 2015, which is right as things started to go a little haywire culturally, because his style, they would never let him get away with that now. It's because, when the women came on, it's a bunch of Hollywood actors. They're good. Most of them are good looking, and he flirts with all of them. But he does so in a way that's funny. He knows how to get them a little disarmed and just effortlessly take them through conversations which are not serious. He's not generally asking them much about the movie they're being in, or even hardly anything serious. He would occasionally have a serious conversation, and those can be really interesting. But so many of them were just bullcrap subjects that he was just having fun with, and they're all so freaking entertaining. I'm like, gosh, but he did but in a way, it's like he kind of did the smartest thing. He just left you wanting more. It's like he was on for maybe 9-10 years. He's like, okay, I'm done.
Wow. Because Craig Kilborn was the person before him. He was doing the late show with Craig Kilborn. That was the guy. And then, of course, Craig Ferguson was working with Drew Carey on the Drew Carey show and some other things. So there's that connection there. Of course, Whose Line Is It Anyway? And The Price Is Right. And I think at that point, he was hired to come on to do the Late Show with, after Craig Kilborn left, which is funny. Craig Kilborn.
And what a contrast.
Yeah.
And so, I remember, and granted, I don't want to be too harsh on Craig Kilborn, because I think he may have been more funny than I thought back when I was first seeing his show, but I hated his show when it first was airing at the age I was seeing it. Like I said, I don't know. Maybe it does really suck for all I know, but I was just like,
Yeah.
this guy sucks at this. So I was just like, whatever. I don't care that much. I'll just watch something else or go to sleep. But I remember when they picked Craig Ferguson, I didn't watch the Drew Carey Show, but I knew who he was, and I'd seen it enough times to know, oh, okay, it's the guy from Drew Carey Show. I was like, huh, him? I didn't know he could host anything. Okay. And I don't even remember the first time I watched it. I just remember once I did, I was like, holy crap, this guy's great. I was just like, this show it's so unpredictable. It's so different from all the other ones. And it wasn't until later I realized, oh, it's because it's just free form. He's just like, we're going to mess with everybody. We're going to mess with this format. Then he brings on this, once Josh Robert Thompson started actually voicing Jeff Peterson in the same free-flowing manner, that it went from being a great show to a legendary show because their chemistry was just incredible.
Yes, it was.
It was so good, and because it loosened up pretty much all the guests and made everything funny. I mean, holy crap! Some of the little bits and bytes you can go to watching that show they're hilarious. And I forced, like, I'm one of 10. I have 9 siblings. I have forced all of them to watch Craig Ferguson stuff, and have gotten several of them to be like, to where even if they're not as into his stuff as I am, there are some little lines here and there that they'll say them with me because they like them. Like if they do something a little risky, I'll be like, careful, Icarus. They'll know that reference. They'll know that reference.
Well, and that was the story that Thompson gives in that one, is that they got an email and Craig Ferguson was just kind of like irritated by it. But no, and again, between both the Whose Line Is It Anyway and the Craig Ferguson Show, that's something I wanted to do because, I felt like the freedom to go wherever. So I tuned in to Craig Ferguson. I was like, oh, that's got the accent, a hard time understanding. Yeah, he's a Scottish person. You're gonna have a hard
worth
time.
the effort, though. It's so worth the effort because he'll just make fun of that too. I get even Jeff at times will be like, "It's your accent. I can't understand a word you're saying."
Being left alone to grow as he did. Yeah, and that's understandable. Again, he left at the end of 2014 because it was in December, and you can go see the episode that's up there about it. But he did leave at the end of 2014. So yeah, you are right in saying that he left.
He did it like 9 years, maybe 10.
Yeah, because I don't remember when he started, but I just remember Craig Kilborn was the person before him, and because this is like 90s, this is like old, like you watch some of the old episodes, you can tell it was from the 90s. There was no HT back in the day. It got blocky sometimes. Like, what? Who's this face over here? Oh man, but yeah, I do like doing that, and I do like.
Sorry, Fatal Investing. Your name appears different in the chat. I'm looking at one. I'm looking at one chat and it says Fatal Nexus, and then I'm looking at the Rumble stream and it says Fatal Invest. I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's the channel user thing that Rumble still has issues with, but yeah, it's different because if you were to see on the stream, it would, or not stream, but the chat and Rumble, it'd be whatever. But yeah, in studios is still the difference of either or. But but yeah, I am grateful for that because I wouldn't know how any other way to do the content stuff because I tried gaming. It really wasn't clicking. I tried doing movie reviews. That was all right. But it wasn't clicking either. And it wasn't until I hit on this thing with just talking to other people, right? I mean, I could talk to myself. I could do that all day long. But the point of the matter is when you can, as it's saying, sit down and talk with other people. Doesn't matter, content creator, not content creator, talk to VTubers, whole 9 yards. You begin to see something of similarity, dissimilarity, and just the human concept. Because again, as from earlier, we miss the human concept when we're divided by all this other stuff, the politics, the foot, the teamism and all this stuff. We're all divided. We get divided by it, and we kind of break apart and don't have a conversation. I get you're going to have, and I think this is going to be the hardest one, and people will disagree. I get people will have these adults pretenders, right? These adult pretenders who have the whole pronoun thing, whatever. I get that. You don't have to respect it at all at any point. But if we can't sit down and have a conversation to figure out why their thought process is that way, right? Instead of just dismissing them right off the bat, what are we? Right? We can't have a conversation. You don't have to agree with them. You could tell them to fudge off with all this stuff. But when you dismiss them right off the bat and you don't hear them beyond the point of, if their whole thing is just about the pronoun stuff, well, then they have lost their cause. But the thing of it is just sitting down to have a conversation about, okay, this person has experience of life from their perspective, from their point of view. Why aren't we having those conversations? If it only happens once, then it only happens once. But we don't. And it's not just that. It's not just that. We the things we are against on principle, right? But we don't talk to the people. It's not about inviting it into your life and accepting it whole. It's about inviting it at the table, a neutral ground, right? A neutral ground, having a conversation about whatever, or trying to figure out like the mindset, whatever, and they probably do the same too, and going from there. And if it doesn't go any further than that's that. But I think we kind of miss out on a human feature of having a conversation because we've got this.
Well,
We've
it's
got
really
this
just
all
try,
going.
it's trying to get, because the internet is such a prevalent thing in everybody's lives
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
What's happened is that because there's this disconnect when you're online, and if you're like me, you're behind the camera, you're not in front of it, or even you can even see this with people who are on camera at the same time. It's very different than being actually next to a person having a conversation with them. And when we're on the internet often, it's easier for that disconnect to manifest into hostility. Like you brought up the pronoun thing. It's like, okay, in my main job, it's like, yeah, I've worked with people who do the pronoun thing. I'm sure they know wholeheartedly that I think that's weird and crazy and have very strong views about that. But we still are otherwise able to get along fine because we're in a situation where we have to work together. And it's like we have kind of this ingrained common cause of our jobs. But it's an interesting lesson, because even though it's like I may understand that there's this aspect to this person that I fundamentally disagree with and fundamentally against even, and them vice versa towards me, but because we have this common cause, or we just share this common ground at that particular moment, it's like we can have a conversation. It can be beyond amicable. It can be downright friendly. Some of these people who I have fundamental disagreements with get along with great when we're interacting. And I think when we're on the internet, whether it's, we're talking about other creators or we're talking about people that we see things about them online, this disconnect, I think, oftentimes will cause us to forget that these are human beings. I mean, being a Christian, one of the things that I'm constantly being reminded of whenever I start to feel this hostility towards people who have these opposing views or lifestyles or whatever that I'm against is that, okay, it's like, but if you're a Christian, this person is still made in the image of God, and they are still part of that mission field of people you're supposed to be praying for and sharing the gospel with, and all of that stuff is still there. It does not, it's like granted, it may not be fruitful when and if it happens. Nothing may happen. Those disagreements may still exist, but it's not a bad thing to try to at least think of, what if you were actually in the same room with this person? How would you interact with them then? Now interact with them that way. Because, the one thing that gets tweeted out there as a principle that isn't the worst thing to listen to is, you wouldn't say this if we were face to face. We see that a lot. And it's used as a taunt, obviously.
Yeah.
But there is something fundamentally true about that. Now, granted, usually the person saying it is just as guilty of violating that same principle. It's like, guess what? You wouldn't talk like this either. But that should be the kind of the revelatory moment where you're like, you know what? We wouldn't talk like this if we were actually standing with each other. So why don't we behave like civilized human beings and actually have a conversation?
And yeah, that's a good point. Anyway, it's a little after. I let it go a little longer, but it is the top of the hour, and I think we'll kind of cut it to the close shortly. But of course, you know what we did the first time around. So we're going to do the same thing before. So just go ahead and promote your stuff again, and then I'll do my end, and then we'll go from there for a little bit.
Yeah, once again, if you want to find me, I am primarily on YouTube and Twitter, same handle, the Gourd King. My YouTube channels, I have the one I just mentioned, the Gourd King. That one I use to talk movies, do videos. I've started a series where I do some poorly explained ones. Granted, there's only one of those right now, but I have several other movie videos you can check out. My meme channel, Gordish Memes, that's another one. Again, you can find this from the main channel. And then if you ever want to hang out while I'm playing a video game, go to Gaming with Gourd or follow me on Twitter at, you guessed it, the Gourd King.
That's a pretty good channel name, gaming with Gourd, because I'm like, because like you're saying with playing with around with wordplay, right? That's like so close to saying gaming with God at that point. But
You want to hear what real quick? This won't take long.
Right.
There was one other person who was using some variant of Gourd King
Yeah.
when I first picked that name, and it's a furry. There's nothing Gourd-like about their channel. It's somebody wearing like a fox costume. They haven't made anything in years, so I saw that and I was like, okay, I don't think anyone's gonna mistake me for this person. I don't even know why they had this name, but the only other person it was one word, Gourd King. It was a furry. I was like, the heck? I'm taking it's like screw it, I'm taking it. This person, whatever, they won't mind. I mean, it's not copywritten or anything yet. I'll do it.
Oh man, that's
so when you search Gourd King, it's the pumpkin, not the furry.
Well, no, just
I would say give the furry a follow, but I don't know if I want to advise that. I have no idea what his
hey guys,
is. I don't even know if it's a him. It could be a woman for all I know. It's someone in a fox costume.
What does the fox say? Nothing at all. But that's an old thing. But yes, anyway, so I stream to both YouTube and Rumble, of course, using Rumble Studios. Guys, whether you're on Rumble or YouTube, if you wouldn't mind liking, sharing, following, or leaving a comment, one of it or all of it, the engagement factor helps in bringing more people on. And it's a simplification, but basically it's to help be seen more, to have more people on, right? Like there are a few people, but there's a person mentioned me in chat to have to come on, and I do that. And if you're respectful enough, you too can come on. But before then, if you wouldn't mind helping with the engagement factor, like, follow, comment, all that stuff, I appreciate it because it helps widen the door for more and more people to come on. And maybe I'll have the 1 million people I won't spoke of, but we'll see. But
if
also,
any of you out there have 1 million friends, tag all of them. Send them this way.
It's gonna be a lot. I'm gonna have a full years ahead. It's gonna be a lot of people.
Tell you what. How about 10 of you with 100,000 friends? We'll make it easy.
Oh goodness! Now you're just making it harder. But anyway, if you, whether you're watching right now on either YouTube or Rumble, or watching in the future on both platforms, if you'd like to have the opportunity, if you'd like to take up the opportunity to come on, go down the link tree below and find me at my links. I have a Twitter X, I have the Discord, I have email, I have the links to the channels as well. If not that, just leave a comment in either YouTube or Rumble and we can get started, because again, I am close to having 100 different people on and I'm looking to have more. The other stuff, the followers, the rants, all that stuff, those are all bonuses to the ultimate point of having people on and having just fun, free-flowing conversations and just going from there. Because as you just saw, me and the Gourd King, the Majesty himself, have gone for 2 hours just talking about whatever, and it just, you don't notice it. After a while, you just don't notice it, and I am appreciative of it. So anyway, guys, any help with the engagement, and if you'd like to come on, the link tree is down below. I thank you all for coming on. I think we'll go for till 2:30, and we'll stop from there. But yeah, I saw this from White Bears, like it's one of the hardest thing as a Christian to do with properly for me, and that's true. It's right. Again, people have different perspectives and different views of the world, and of course, you're gonna have some Christians be on difference of the view to other Christians, like you shouldn't be seen so weak or whatever. And I'm just like, but
there's lots of schisms.
yeah, there's Yeah.
Christians. There's Arminians and Calvinists. There's Baptists and Presbyterians. There's there's all kinds of
Catholicism, yeah.
yeah. I
But
mean,
it's
there's a lot of differences.
but that's also the thing too, is right, for me the umbrella for what is considered Christian is wide because a whole lot of other stuff fits under that. But it's like, but you all worship one person that died for your sins, is part of going to come back one day. Why is it that you have to be also separated? I don't get that. But
I mean,
I'm not
I
the
don't
smartest person
necessarily
in the
have a
world.
problem with there being some separation if you have differences in doctrines. I mean, at least is that, and I don't necessarily mind there being I don't mind the differences that we have. I don't mind the fact that we don't do everything unified. I don't think we should fully unify. I think that idea is really odd.
Right.
This idea of complete unity, but you can talk to people that you're not necessarily completely unified with. Let's be
Right.
real. Most of the time, the only people you're truly unified with are your family. That's generally it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's you and your family, and eventually even that family is, God willing, you're still married, that,
Mm.
eventually it'll be whittled down to the two of you. And then eventually one of you is going to pass away. It's going to be back down to one, and then you'll die. But
Dark.
those are generally the people. But I mean, no, it's just the simple reality. But
Yeah.
but the main point being is that you're ultimately going to be most unified to your family. That's going to be the homogenous unit that you're a part of, and that's great. But you build friendships and you build connections by having discussions with other families, and then you branch out and you have discussions with people in your greater community, or in YouTube's case, YouTube community. Like I said, the show I'm hosting with, me, Cannoli, Vex, Whitey, we all have various views on different things, whether it's movies we agree on or world views or whatever. But you find unity in common causes. You find friendship in just being able to treat each other like human beings. And like Whitey was saying, it can be very difficult to see someone who you strongly disagree with as somebody made in the image of God, but it's one of those principles that we do have to remind ourselves of, and you hope that from there you can, if not befriend the person, at least leave them be, at least in an amicable way. It's like, okay, I can see this isn't going anywhere, but hey, no hate. We can. It's like we'll go our separate ways, and that's fine.
Yeah. It's like
the Joker line of Batman. We'll just shake hands and that'll be it. Except you don't electrocute them to death.
yeah, it's true. It's the kicking off the dust off your sandals sort of thing, right? If they're so hard-hearted that they won't hear you out, or they dismiss you or whatever, and you're giving them a benefit, of course, then you just kick off your sandals and you go from there, because what can you do, right? You're not Moses. You're not going to be changing, the Pharaoh's heart from hardness. But I do think there's a line you kind of throw out there, and if the other person doesn't take it, then they have freely chosen not to. But if they do, if there's just a little hint of them taking it, then you have a way of bridging a gap they never thought they would have filled or whatever. And I think there's a limit of a risk, but there is a risk of bridging across a gap, talking to people, whether it be the pronoun thing or whatever. And if it stays the way it is and they don't want to change from it, then you kick your dust off your sandals and you just continue on the way they have chosen. And if they come to you, then that's an opportunity to try again. If they don't come to you, then they have chosen. But if the person is if the person is open and invited, and you're not preaching, you're not like the Westboro whatever it was group from a long time ago, yeah, that was interesting, then you stand a good chance of spreading the good word, of the good news and all that stuff. And I would think that's the main point of what Christians want to do, because that's what they've been taught to do. And of course, you can have someone bring up something that's not what it says here and all this other stuff. And I'm just, okay, Nostradamus, whatever you want. At the end of the day, though, I just see it as, if the door opens itself, and from some small matters, right, like the faith of a mustard seed sort of scenario, then you could have something that's so beneficial to the other person that it becomes something more, becomes something grander. A light is shined now, the sun shines. And I think that in the risk of not risking your own life, right? Because you don't want to be in a position to like, be killed or anything like that. You do, like, what was the story? There's the missionary that tried to go to an island where it's known for hostility by the tribes that live on there, or whatever, and he tried to go there to teach a good word.
You're talking about
killed.
I think they made a film of that, the end of the spear or something like that, or
Well,
granted,
it
that kind
was
of thing has happened quite a bit. People
Yeah.
going to lands that are hostile towards them, but
yeah, and
yeah,
I understand the why on that regard, but there is a point of, there are other ways of getting the good news out there, at least trying to edge in, so to speak, and bringing it. But to end up dead, I don't think that's the real and tragedy it should be for what you're trying to do. I really just it just
I mean,
seems like there's a better way.
I mean, I wouldn't want to make dying the goal.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I wouldn't want to make dying necessarily the goal. I love the idea of bravely venturing into, a mission field. Granted, you have to be smart about it. You have to be rooted in your principles. To me, that's ultimately what it's going to come down to, is you need to root yourself in principles. That's why I was kind of saying earlier, a moment ago, it's like, I don't necessarily mind a lack of unity in certain respects, or there being certain divisions, because I think when you root yourself in principles, naturally there's going to be some division between you and people who don't share your principles.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean you should compromise on those unless you find that one of your principles is wrong.
Mhm.
But to me, it's like, being a Christian and being rooted in trying to root myself in biblical principle, the only time I
Right.
change my principles is when I find that I've misinterpreted something or didn't fully understand it.
Mhm.
From that perspective. And going from there is, I find that I still have a good amount of common ground with people who aren't necessarily Christian. I find that I sometimes lack common ground to some extent with people who do call themselves Christian. Kind of depends on, how they see a certain aspect of scripture, or how they see certain scruples or whatever, whether,
Right.
there's a lot of Christians who are very anti-drinking any alcohol ever, and there are others who are like, well, that's not actually in the Bible that you can't, so that's not quite a settled matter. And it's like, you
Mhm.
can, it's fine to have some common ground and some not, but to me it's like, you root yourself in principle, and hopefully you can engage people you disagree with in conversation. If you can win them over, if it's such a discussion where you are trying to, I don't like the idea of saying win them over to your side. I don't think that's how the gospel
Yeah.
works. You're not
Mm.
trying to convince them. You're telling them the gospel. You can't make them,
Yeah.
you can't make them have faith. That's not a
Yeah.
human skill. That's
Yeah.
that's between God and that person. You're
Right.
simply sharing. Now, they may come to Christ in that moment or sometime later. They may not. Just because they don't doesn't mean that it has to be, a bad situation from there. You can find that you all can still get along. But if you can't, as long as you have your principles,
Mhm.
then I think you're doing okay. As long as you are sticking by those principles, you're good. If you are constantly, however, compromising,
Yeah.
then not only do I think you're kind of a flaky person, but you're going to ultimately find that you're going to probably create even more division, because you can't keep that up with every single person. They'll be like, well, wait
Yeah.
a minute, I thought you were for this. That's why you're friends with this person. Why are you suddenly like this and being friends with me? This doesn't make sense. And they find that, oh, this person's just flat out dishonest. This is weird.
Yeah,
But
I think that's where the word conviction comes in, right? Because you're convicted of your faith and all that stuff. And of course, convicted can go 50-50, right? You can be convicted enough that you get blind to the things around you. But I do think that, as you were stating, um, you're on the Rumble side. You got to go to the YouTube side to respond back
oh,
to
I know.
him.
I'm kind of purposely messing around, going on both. I'm just doing it however.
Why he's like, he didn't say anything back. I thought he was gonna say something back, and you're like, and he's like later, and you're like,
Why I gave him 2 later whiteys.
yeah, always
One,
gotta
I
give
gave you the Rumble version and the YouTube version.
gotta give a Whitey a good send off.
Yeah.
but I just think from my perspective, I don't care. I mean, I don't care for the Westboro type of people, and I don't care for the holier than thou people, because then they show what kind of person they are, and they're not really about the gospel they preach. They're about self-importance, or at least a blindness to self-importance. Because I'm telling you what, I could
I kind of wonder if the Westboro people were just plants that somebody invented to create. Like, I find that, I mean, it's possible they really think what they think, and they're just that cult-like. But it was comedic, and it's like some people were really mad about them. And I can understand Christians not being against them a little stronger. So like, you're horribly misrepresenting Christ here, where all you're doing is holding up signs about who God hates and stuff like that. It's like, yes, we need to be opponents to sin, but that's not the message of the church. The message of the church is the gospel, not all this stuff about how God hates soldiers and all this and that. It's like, that's weird. But it was so outrageous that I was like, does anyone else think this is a little funny? And maybe not totally on the up and up. Like, maybe these people are being paid to do this, because it came off like bad acting sometimes. Because I was like, when you'd hear like an individual one speak, I was like, they don't sound all that well prepared. I mean, granted, a lot of protesters sound that way now. I mean, now that I've seen enough of them, they don't really know what they're fighting or standing for. But I was just like, I'd see some of them talking and be like, this almost seems scripted. It's so weird. But granted, like I said, maybe they really believe all that stuff. I don't know. But they kind of, it seems like they faded away and are kind of just a meme now. So that all the more makes me wonder if they were ever really real.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. I don't know. Never made my way out to Westboro.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't care for the mega churches. I don't care for the holier than thous. I don't care for the people that pretend they know some hidden thing about the Bible or whatever. At the end of the day, though,
prosperity gospel people. Yeah,
I have no idea what they're called, but at the end of the day,
that's at least a sect of what you're talking about. I'm beyond not a fan of them. I'm outwardly against them,
because I
think they are among the scummiest people on planet Earth, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Because I know a lot of people got upset with the RNC for the whole indie prayer, and then you had the whole Amber Rose thing and all that stuff, and I can kind of get that perspective. But at the end of the day, though, you're applying principles or principles, parables, teachings, whatever you want to call them, to something that's never been about that. Yes, they use the banner of Christianity to get people under it, but it's politics, right? Politics is to get to as many people as possible in order to win, which is the goal, right? Let's look at it this way. It's a team game, right? And their goal is to get as many extra players on their team from different sections of the stadium in order to beat the other guy. The more numbers you have, the better. So what they do is they go out, either an honest or some subversion of term, and they try to do this thing where they get some people on. Now, of course, what you think of Amber Rose on a personal level, or Harmeet Dillian, or whatever her name was, is on you. But my question to you is, if you're going to apply the principles of Christianity or parables, whatever, why are you under a government, right? Why are you living in a thing that was created by humans when you're told you are in this world but you're not of it? So why are you falling down there? And this is just personal mind question, a personal concept, if you will. But it just becomes, again, we come back to the hypocrisy part. Where, you're pointing out, was that verse, pointing out the sawdust in one eye without pointing out the plank in yours, whatever it is. I can't remember exactly, but that is what it is.
Well, I would more say this would fall into the category of you're rooting yourself more in something, because I think I know what you're talking about. I mean, I have no problem with Christians commenting about those two situations, because obviously, the RNC is supposed to represent conservative values, and this, like I said, they're more. It's just about winning anymore, and it's not really about principle.
Mhm.
So if you have an issue with that, I can fully understand that. I had issues with a lot of that stuff, but this is where conversation is much more valuable than just putting out a few tweets or something like that, or making a single video by yourself. Because it's like there's nuance to it. Because and not even just the person who's tweeting, but the response to those tweets, often they lack the nuance in it. Because like from a Christian perspective, I was like, okay, this person is saying this, and this. I agree with 80% of this. But mostly people are just going to be like, I disagree with I think all of it is stupid, or I think all of it's great. And I'm like, well, no, neither of those responses are correct. Some of what person X is saying is, at least in my view, at least if you're a Christian, is definitely true. Some of it's a little iffy. Depends on, which person we're talking about and which statement we're talking about. But I'm like, at the end of the day, though, it's like, if you're a Christian, and I guess this is obviously, speaking against a certain group of people, but there's obviously a group of people who want desperately for America to be a fully Christian nation. And obviously I wouldn't be against that as a Christian, but at the same time, I'm not going to put my hopes in that, because, if that happens, then I'm like, okay, if God decides that's what he wants to happen, it's going to happen. I believe he's fully sovereign in that respect, but that's not what I'm going to, but his commands are pretty clear about, we're not supposed to be putting our hope and our trust in that, because it's like you said, we're in the world, we're not of it. So if you're putting your hopes in that such an institution would be created in this world, then you're kind of falling into the trap of loving the world and wanting things in this life to go a specific way, rather than looking towards the eternal, which is what you're supposed to be doing, because that is such a kingdom. That is such a thing you get to look forward to. So yes, if it happens to happen in your lifetime that we get this thing you want, that's great. Guess what? It's still temporal. Maybe you'll be able to work to where your kids will have something close to that, or even dead on that, and it still won't last. So fight for it's like, yes, you should fight for your principles. You should speak out against those things that you think violate them. That's all fine. But at the end of the day, this is all temporary. And so are you. So you better be putting your stock elsewhere.
and to that, I'd say I could not find a better way to end the show. So so anyway, thank you.
I would drop the mic, but it's on a stand.
Bam. You just tap it down on your desk, like, and it's just like, what was that? It's like, what
I'd have to lower the arm like really aggressively. But just pretend I'm doing that.
So before we go, though, there's a usually if I had the option to do an ad read, I would just at least show you what that's about through Rumble Studios, but can't do that. So what I do is I do a thing called questions from a hat, and of course this was a combination of the Actor Studio idea, an idea I took from the Actor Studio, and then from Whose Line Is It Anyway. So I bought a Rumble hat, obviously, and I put a bunch of questions there. So how it goes is that I'm not monetized on YouTube, so you can't really give me anything over there. Sorry, guys. But if you're on Rumble, I'm already monetized. So you can just, if you would like to, so you, the guests, get 2 freebies, right? You get 2 free questions. And if there's anyone in the chat who would like to have another one come out of the hat, rant or whatever for another one. I've had people give me $1, and that's fine. But yeah, so if you want more than the 2 that are asked, you got to give a rant for it. That's the deal. And it has happened. It has happened, but not very often. So, but anyway, we're going to pick, I'm not looking at the hat. I'm just kind of mixing things up, like shaking it up a bit. I'm going to find a question to ask. And here we go. So here's one. Here's the first one, right? And then what is it? What does it say? It says, what's your least favorite color and why?
What's my least favorite color and why?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so tempting to say something horrible. But
why do you hate color?
I could go way worse than that. No, I won't, because it's like I don't. I want to try to at least. I guess. My least favorite color.
You still have to give something. Come on, man.
Oh no, I'm thinking. I want to actually. I'm considering the question.
let me consider you asking.
I'm thinking probably pink is my
Pink,
least
really?
favorite color. I mean, I don't know if there's a color I specifically hate. So I don't want to give off the impression that I hate the color pink.
Yeah, you can say
But
dislike. It's fine.
it's well, it's not even necessarily dislike. It's the one that I find I gravitate. Like if you were to look through my home,
Mm,
I tend to think pink would be the least featured color if it is there at all. I
right.
maybe have one shirt that I can pull off that is pink.
Right.
That's it. That might be the only pink thing in the entire home.
Wow.
I'm not positive, but nothing sticks out particularly around that is. Well, okay. I found one thing. One of my favorite books does have a slipcover that's pink, but it nothing to do with the color. It just happens to be. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the color pink. I'm not saying I could do without. Just saying I don't miss it while it's gone.
It's a big thing for breast cancer awareness, so I can understand you have a whole month of seeing pink. It's like, oh,
I
Lord.
think they've done plenty to make me aware of breast cancer, but they've also done plenty to make me tired of the color.
I'm glad
Did we have to go to so many bounds to associate it with a color? I don't think that helped.
I'm glad you said associate with breast cancer, because if you just say associate with breast, that would have been a very different conversation.
Yeah.
I'm a bad person. I apologize. Okay. Okay. One more. Unless someone wants to give a rant for another one. Okay. It's another blue one, but that's all right. But it's not the same one. AFK talking to the family. Well, we're at towards the end of it, Putin. Come on. If you're already gonna be AFK, we may be able to do that. Hold on. But anyway, let's get this question first. Okay. What is the question? What is okay? This one was so I was on a stream with another person. His name is Kaiju. And we were in a conversation, just having fun, whatever. And we came up, and he sort of came up with this question, but it's more of a funny one, not like a serious one. But it's, are cats racist?
Absolutely. Okay, so I told you earlier. I have at least some measure of experience with said racism. So I told you earlier I'm one of 10. 7 of my siblings are not American. They're adopted from China. And my cat, my little racist tabby cat Mozart, is totally cool with white people. But when my Asian siblings come around, he treats them a little differently. He treats them like they're that person who's walking on the same sidewalk as he is during the night, and he's gonna cross the street. He's just like, nah, I ain't having that Asian stuff. Now, I mean, maybe he's heard some stories about Asian cuisine. I don't know. Maybe he has, but yeah, he treats my Asian siblings just a little bit different. Not full on racism. It's not malignant. It's fairly benign, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's there. So
at
least some of them are.
Ugh, ew. I'm not a feet person. Yeah. Anyway, thanks to Freedom Otter, you get another question to be asked. So hold on to your horses. All right. Hopefully I don't pick the same one, because there's a lot in this hat. What am I getting? I'll go with the green one. Tired of getting blue paper. Love. All right. Let us see what this is about. So this is that one. What does it say? Oh, here we go. This is a nice simple one. Do you prefer cats or dogs?
Cats.
Cat.
Definitely
Why?
cats.
Why cats?
I've always I mean, if it's the easiest answer, I guess, is, aside from just the animal they are, is that cats you can always pick up and hold. Because I mean, generally, unless you're one of those really, really rich people whose cats belong in the wild or to be viewed on a safari, but a typical cat, one that a poor old schmo like me is going to be able to have, you can pick them up, you can hold them, they're fun, and they're fun to play with. And I like that cats are low maintenance animals. You don't really have to do. I mean, you change their litter, you feed them, you play with them a little bit here and there, but mostly 16, 17 hours of the day, they are just laying down, doing their own thing. You know, occasionally they'll go up against your leg and say, "Feed me," or "catnip me," if you know they're
Yeah.
part of that. You know,
Part of that
the more
crowd.
hippie cat demographic, which my cat is. He likes the catnip, definitely.
Great.
But yeah, and this is no knock on dogs. I love dogs. I think dogs are pretty awesome. But cats, I think I tend to lean cat on that one. I like cats. My favorite animal even would be a type of cat. I think tigers are the most majestic animal on planet Earth, and they're part orange, like a pumpkin. So boom.
And not to get too close to them because they will eat you alive.
Yeah.
So will your cats when you pass away, but that's a different story altogether.
Hey, go for it. I don't need this body anymore. Make a meal of it. Leave no
Grandpa,
evidence.
Grandpa said it's time for a little donation to science. Oh wait, the cat already ate him. That brings up a funny question: is when John dies, do you think Garfield will eat him?
I mean, I think he's gonna cook him into that lasagna pot. I
Huh?
mean, he's going full. He's gonna devour John. You know,
Oh man.
he might throw Odie in the pot with him, alive or dead.
Oh my goodness. But anyway, so luckily we're able to do the campaign ad thing. So I just want to show you what that's about because through Rumble Studios you can do, because I know part of the reason why most people don't go to Rumble is reaching money, and Rumble Studios they implemented this a while back, and you can earn some money by reading an ad. So that's what I'm gonna do, and we'll just stick with well, I don't want to do that one. Let's do shave razors. Let's do that. That seems to be all right. All right. So we go. So we do it on the right, and I get professional. Okay.
Cough drops.
Yes. Let me tell you about our sponsor, Patriot Shave. Backed by over 2,000 5-star customer reviews and a satisfaction, Patriot Shave offers premium quality razors at affordable prices. But even better, they are a freedom-loving company that is standing up for traditional American values and fights wokeness. While other big-name razor brands may salute flags or support causes that don't align with your values, Patriot Shave is here for you. The hard-working men and women who love this country and who don't want your hard-earned money to support woke causes. So throw your woke razor in the trash and go to patriotshave.com right now and use code SWITCH, SWITCH, because obviously maybe some people might. Oh, it's right up the screen. For 15% off. That's right. Patriotshave.com, code SWITCH. Patriotshave.com, code SWITCH. 50% off. And yeah, so take out the woke, bring on the razors, American made, and shave like you got a smooth face. Okay. But anyway, that's one of the ordeals that Rumble Studios allows. So you can earn money through that. It's not going to be like thousands of dollars, but it is one way of enticing content creators to come and use Rumble stuff. Because again, Rumble Studios is free to use. It's not. There are a lot of gamers who try to use it, but it's not there yet for them. But I just use it for the podcasting stuff, and it works fine. And I am Nips. As John is stuck in a comma, that's why Garfield speaks. If he's stuck in a comma.
Yeah. If you're stuck in a comma, you might have semicolon cancer.
You could say that's a no. I was gonna fail that one. You could say that's one big colon, but that doesn't.
You're gonna have a hard time topping that pun I just did, so you might.
I know. He's been carbs up for years. There you go. We're going to wordplay. I'd be the Freedom Otter says I'll be the only protein curve for this guy.
Aw.
It's true. That's true. But anyway, guys, it is the end of the show. I wanted to thank Pumpkin King. The gourd, the pumpkin guy thing. He has a face of pumpkin. No, I want to
Yeah.
thank the Gourd King for coming on. I appreciate you coming on and giving me a shot because it is awesome when I get other people on, whether it's from the YouTube side, whether it's the Rumble side. It does not matter where you come from. Be able to have you on and have a conversation and just have fun with it. It's been awesome. So thank you. And I also wanted to thank all you in the chat. That's right, both YouTube and Rumble. I know some of you were probably mostly here for the pumpkin-headed guy with the face and things. But I do appreciate you coming along, and I hope to see you next time. So tomorrow is Friday, right? Yeah, tomorrow is Friday at 7. Okay, at 7 p.m. Eastern, I have my Pay It Forward stream, and what I do is I go through the live stream section of Rumble, because I can do more on Rumble than I can on YouTube, right? Because you have to give a certain amount for the super chats in order to say a lot more. And on Rumble, you can, if you give $1 or $500, you get the same amount of characters. It's like 200 characters. And so that makes things go farther. But anyway, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, I go around in the live stream category on Rumble. I give back a little to the people that are on. There are 24/7 ones I avoid, and other ones. But I do give back. It's either whether it's helping with the engagement factor or them giving a little monetary. It's all to benefit the community on Rumble that use it. So, and at 9 p.m. it was going to be at 8 p.m., but the gentleman is traveling home, so he's not gonna be able on time. So at 9 p.m. Eastern instead of 8, I'm gonna have a dude named Brett come on, and that's gonna be awesome. Because I want. And he'll be coming on my show. And then at 5, I'm going on someone's show, but I'll mention that in the Twitter X. So anyway, guys, 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, Pay It Forward stream. And then I will have my guest Brett on at 9 p.m. And it's going to be a great time, as always, with all my guests, because I do like everybody. And of course, the Gourd King, you are always welcome back. Because I always invite people back. So again, guys, thank you guys so much. And don't forget, on your way out, before you leave, like, share, comment, and follow. And if you don't know who the Gourd King is, give him a check out. Yes, he has a Rumble, and I'll add that later, but he hasn't added anything to it, so he's mostly focused on
The
his
YouTube is the important one.
Yeah. I get it there, champ. But anyway, I appreciate you all being here, and I hope to see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. And before we go, or as always, I end with One Day With You by Pogo. See you guys tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, and have a great night.
Later.
Bye, guys.